On a rain-soaked Seoul night, a foreign woman was discarded by a powerful family like trash after 7 years of humiliation. Barren, worthless, broken. Then a black Mercedes appeared through the storm, and inside sat the city's most feared mafia boss with an impossible offer: marry him for revenge. One decision, one night, everything changed. This is the story of a woman who traded survival for power and discovered that the most dangerous thing in Seoul wasn't the criminal empire. It was falling in love with the man who owned it. Follow this story to the end, hit like, and comment your city so I can see how far this tale travels.
Rain
Rain didn't fall on Seoul that night. It attacked. Seraphina Vale stood outside the iron gates of the Kwon family mansion with a single suitcase, watching water hammer the pavement like bullets. Her hair plastered against her skull, her coat soaked through. 7 years of her life reduced to 23 kilograms of clothes and one shattered jewelry box. Behind those gates sat the only home she'd known since leaving California at 22. Inside that fortress of marble and old money, her husband Jae-hyun Kwon was probably pouring himself whiskey, while his mother, that venomous matriarch who'd just destroyed Seraphina's entire existence, celebrated her victory. Barren. The words still burned in Seraphina's ears like acid. You've had 7 years to give us an heir. 7 years of embarrassment, of failure. My son deserves better than a defective foreign woman who can't even fulfill the most basic duty of a wife. Jae-hyun had stood there in his expensive suit, saying nothing, not defending her, not arguing, just silent. That silence cut deeper than his mother's cruelty ever could. Seraphina's hands shook as she gripped the suitcase handle, not from cold, from rage so pure it felt like swallowing glass. She started walking. No plan, no destination, just movement, because standing still meant drowning in the humiliation. The streets of Itaewon stretched before her like a neon battlefield, luxury hotels bleeding light into puddles, high-end restaurants where she used to dine with Jae-hyun's business associates, clubs where Seoul's elite pretended to be wild while their bodyguards watched from corners. She'd moved through this world for 7 years wearing designer clothes and a fake smile, playing the role of perfect wife to a man who'd married her for novelty and discarded her when she failed to produce children. Failed. She'd spent 3 years in fertility clinics, 3 years of injections, invasive procedures, tears in sterile bathrooms. 3 years of doctors saying unexplained infertility, like those two words could somehow contain the horror of feeling broken at a cellular level. And now she was here, 30 years old, divorced, or about to be, once the lawyers finished carving up the prenup she'd signed in naive love. Walking through rain with nowhere to go because the apartment she'd shared with Jae-hyun belonged to his family, her visa status was about to implode, and her parents back in California had died in a car accident 4 years ago. She was alone in a country that had never fully accepted her foreign face. A black Mercedes rolled past, then stopped. Seraphina kept walking. Seoul was full of expensive cars, full of men who thought foreign women were easy targets. She'd learned to keep her head down, keep moving, avoid eye contact. The car reversed, matching her pace. "Get in!" The voice came from the back seat, low, commanding, with that particular Seoul accent that marked old money or old power. Sometimes both. Seraphina didn't look. "I'm fine." "You're drowning." Poetic, still fine. Seraphina Vale. She stopped walking. Her real name, not the Korean name she'd adopted after marriage, spoken by a stranger in a city of 10 million people on the worst night of her life. The rear window rolled down further. The man inside wore black. Black suit, black shirt, black eyes that caught streetlight like polished obsidian. His face belonged in fashion magazines, sharp cheekbones, perfect bone structure, the kind of beauty that felt dangerous. Early 30s, maybe. Hair styled with calculated carelessness. A thin scar traced his left eyebrow. "You don't know me," Seraphina said. "I know you were married to Kwon Jae-hyun for 7 years. I know his mother just threw you out because you couldn't give them a grandson. I know you have approximately $4,000 in your personal account, no family in Korea, and a visa that expires in 3 months." He tilted his head slightly. I also know you're about to make a series of very stupid decisions because you're hurt and angry and desperate. So I'm offering you an alternative. Rain ran down Seraphina's neck. Who the hell are you? Lucien Seoul. The name hit like a physical blow. Even foreigners who barely understood Seoul's criminal landscape knew that name. Lucien Seoul controlled the Yongsan and Gangnam nightclub districts. His syndicate ran high-end gambling rooms, luxury escort services, and half the drug trade in the city's richest neighborhoods. Politicians feared him, businessmen paid him, police avoided him. The media called him Seoul's Shadow King. Seraphina's instinct screamed run, but her legs wouldn't move. What do you want? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Get in the car. You're causing a scene. She glanced around. He was right. People were staring from restaurant windows, umbrellas tilting to get a better view of the soaked foreign woman arguing with a luxury vehicle. Against every survival instinct, Seraphina opened the door and slid inside. The interior smelled like leather and something else. Expensive cologne with an edge of danger. Warm air hit her frozen skin. The door closed with the heavy thunk of German engineering. Lucien studied her with those black eyes. Up close, he was even more unsettling. Too beautiful, too controlled, like a blade wrapped in silk. You're shivering, he observed. I'm wet. Observant. He pulled a black towel from somewhere and handed it to her. Not chivalrous, practical. Dry your face. You look pathetic. Seraphina's hands clenched. If you're here to insult me, I can get that for free from my ex-husband's family. I'm here to offer you something they never could. What? Money? I don't need revenge. The word hung in the air between them like smoke. Seraphina's breath caught. What? Lucien leaned back against the leather seat, completely relaxed despite discussing vengeance with a stranger. The Kwan family owes me approximately 8 billion to 1 in gambling debts. Your former mother-in-law has a particular addiction to high-stakes poker that she's very good at hiding. Jae-hyun thinks he's a real estate genius, but he's actually been laundering money for his father's embezzlement scheme for 3 years. He paused. They're vultures in expensive suits, and I'm going to destroy them. Then destroy them. Seraphina's voice shook. What does that have to do with me? I need a wife. Silence. Rain hammered the roof of the Mercedes. Outside, Seoul continued its neon blur. Inside, Seraphina felt like she'd stepped through a mirror into some twisted alternate reality. You're insane, she whispered. Probably. Lucien's expression didn't change. But I'm also offering you power, protection, and a front row seat to watching the family that destroyed you lose everything they value. All you have to do is marry me. Why? Because a mafia boss with a wife looks legitimate, civilized, stable. It opens doors that violence can't. He studied her methodically. And because your marriage to one of Seoul's most prominent families made you visible, valuable. Taking you as my wife humiliates them publicly while serving my business interests. So I'm a business move. Everyone's a business move. Seraphina should have gotten out of the car. Should have run. Should have done literally anything except sit there considering the absolutely deranged proposal from a known criminal. But the image of Jae-hyun's mother pointing at the door kept replaying in her head. You're worthless. Get out of my house. Not their house. Her house. Because Seraphina had never belonged, never earned her place, never produced the heir that would have bought her safety. What's the catch? She asked. Lucien smiled for the first time. It didn't reach his eyes. Smart woman. The catch is you'll become a target. My enemies will see you as leverage. Your face will be in the media constantly. You'll attend events where people smile while plotting to kill me, and by extension, you. You'll live in my world, follow my rules, and pretend to love me convincingly enough that Seoul's elite believes the lie. And in return, wealth, status, revenge. And when the Kwan family falls, when Jae-hyun watches everything his ancestors built crumble because he couldn't keep his wife, you'll be standing beside the man who orchestrated their destruction. Seraphina's hands had stopped shaking. The cold rage that had been simmering since she left the mansion crystallized into something sharper, clearer. How long? She asked. Minimum 1 year? If we pull this off correctly, maybe 2. And after? Divorce? Clean, quiet, with enough money that you'll never worry about visa status or living expenses again. It was insane. Marrying a mafia boss to get revenge on her ex-husband's family. Stepping into a world of violence and crime because she was too angry to care about consequences. But the alternative was what? Crawl back to California with nothing? Disappear into some teaching job at an international school, forever marked as the foreign woman who failed to satisfy a Korean family? No, she'd spent 7 years shrinking herself. 7 years being quiet, obedient, perfect. 7 years swallowing humiliation with a smile. She was done being quiet. I want my own bank account, Seraphina said. Money that's mine, not yours. I want legal protection, a contract that specifies I'm not involved in anything illegal. I want the freedom to leave if I choose. Lucien's eyes glittered with something like respect. Negotiating already. I knew I chose well. Those are my terms. Agreed, my lawyers will draft everything. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Seraphina Vale? She looked at his hand, at the man who radiated danger like other people radiated warmth, at the decision that would either save her or destroy what remained of her life. Then she thought of Jae-hyun's silence, his mother's cruelty. 7 years of being worthless. Seraphina took his hand. We have a deal. Lucien's grip was firm, warm, absolute. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Seo. The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a building in Hanam-dong, Seoul's wealthiest neighborhood, where chaebols and celebrities hid behind security gates and tinted glass. Seraphina stepped out of the elevator into a foyer of black marble and floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled below like a glittering circuit board, every light a life she'd never understand, every building a fortress of ambition. Your room is on the 2nd floor, Lucien said, shrugging out of his wet jacket. Beneath it, his shirt clung to a body that suggested violence delivered with precision. Master Suite is 3rd floor. You won't need to go up there unless I call for you. Romantic, Seraphina muttered. He glanced back with that predator focus. This isn't romance, it's business. You keep saying that. Because you keep looking like you might forget. A woman appeared from somewhere deeper in the penthouse. 50s, severe expression, wearing what looked like a uniform. She bowed slightly to Lucien, then studied Seraphina with the blank assessment of hired help who'd seen everything. Mrs. Kang manages the household, Lucien explained. She'll show you around, provide whatever you need. Tomorrow we'll meet with stylists, lawyers, and my PR team. We're announcing the engagement in 3 days. 3 days? Seraphina's exhaustion slammed into her. That's strategic. The Kwan family will still be celebrating your departure. The shock value multiplies if we move fast. He turned toward the stairs. Get some sleep. You look like death. You're very charming. I'm effective. There's a difference. He disappeared up the stairs, leaving Seraphina standing in a marble foyer wearing soaked clothes, holding a suitcase of her old life, and wondering what the hell she'd just agreed to. Mrs. Kang cleared her throat. This way, please. The bedroom was larger than Seraphina's entire apartment in California had been. King bed with black silk sheets, ensuite bathroom of white marble and gold fixtures, a closet that was currently empty but clearly designed for extensive wardrobe. There are clothes in the dresser, Mrs. Kang said in accented English. Sleep clothes. Tomorrow Mr. Seo's team will provide appropriate wardrobe. Appropriate for what? For being his wife. Mrs. Kang's expression remained neutral. You're the first woman he's brought here. The household is adjusting. Seraphina turned to face her. How long have you worked for him? 12 years. Then you know what he is, what he does. Mrs. Kang's eyes flickered with something, warning maybe, or pity. Mr. Seo is a dangerous man who does dangerous things, but he protects what belongs to him absolutely. If you are truly his wife, you will be safe. If you betray him, she left the sentence unfinished. Sleep well, Mrs. Seo. She left. Mrs. Seo. Seraphina sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing wet clothes, and started laughing. The sound came out broken and slightly hysterical. 12 hours ago, she'd been Kwon Jae-hyun's worthless wife. Now she was engaged to a mafia boss planning to destroy her ex-husband's entire family. All because she'd been too angry to walk away from a black Mercedes. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep. Tomorrow, we go to war. Seraphina threw the phone on the nightstand, stripped out of her wet clothes, and collapsed onto silk sheets that probably cost more than her old apartment's rent. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Alive. Morning came with brutal sunlight and the smell of coffee. Seraphina woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. Then memory crashed back. The rain, the Mercedes, the deal with a man whose reputation made politicians nervous. Someone had laid out clothes on the chair beside her bed. Black pants, silk blouse, understated jewelry. The message was clear. Look expensive but not flashy. Look like you belong here. She showered in the marble bathroom using products that smelled like luxury and made her skin feel like silk. When she finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back wasn't the apologetic foreign wife who'd spent 7 years making herself smaller. This woman had sharp eyes and sharper edges. Downstairs, the penthouse looked different in daylight. Less criminal lair, more architectural digest. Modern furniture, expensive art on walls, windows that turned Seoul into a living painting. Lucian sat at a glass dining table reading something on a tablet, wearing casual clothes that probably cost more than most people's cars. He glanced up when Seraphina entered. "Coffee's fresh. Mrs. Kang made breakfast." "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway. Today's going to be long." He went back to the tablet like her presence was unremarkable. Seraphina poured coffee and sat across from him. "What exactly happens today?" "Lawyers first. You'll sign a prenuptial agreement that protects both of us. Then stylists. You need a complete wardrobe overhaul. Then my PR team briefs you on media strategy. I'm not changing who I am. I'm not asking you to." Lucien set down the tablet, giving her his full attention. But Seraphina Vale, who married into the Kwan family, played by their rules, tried to fit into their boxes. That woman is dead. The woman sitting across from me needs to become someone the entire city talks about. Meaning? Meaning, when we announce this engagement, every news channel in Seoul will explode. Your ex-husband's family will panic. Reporters will dig into your past. Society women will call you a whore. My enemies will see you as weakness. He paused. You need to become untouchable before that happens. Confident, powerful. The kind of woman who makes people step aside when she enters a room. I don't know how to be that person. Yes, you do. His black eyes held hers. You married into one of Korea's most elite families as a foreigner and survived 7 years of their cruelty without breaking. That takes steel. We just need to sharpen it. The intercom buzzed. Mrs. Kang's voice. Mr. Seo, your lawyer has arrived. Send him up. The lawyer was a thin man in his 40s, with calculating eyes and a briefcase that probably contained enough legal firepower to destroy small companies. He laid papers across the dining table with clinical efficiency. Standard prenuptial agreement, he explained in perfect English. Assets remain separate. No claim on Mr. Seo's businesses or properties. In event of divorce, Mrs. Seo receives 10 billion won plus a monthly allowance for 5 years. All existing debts are assumed by Mr. Seo's estate. Mrs. Seo cannot be held legally responsible for any criminal activities conducted by Mr. Seo or his associates. Seraphina read every word. The contract was actually remarkably fair, better than the prenup she'd signed with Jae Hyun, which had basically guaranteed she'd leave with nothing. What about my autonomy? She asked. Can I leave, travel, make my own decisions? The lawyer glanced at Lu Shen, who nodded. Clause 17, the lawyer said, flipping pages. Mrs. Seo maintains independent legal status, freedom of movement except during security concerns. No requirement to participate in illegal activities, right to divorce at any time with 72 hours' notice. It was better than she'd expected, almost protective. Why? Seraphina looked at Lucian. Why give me this much freedom? Because I need a wife who chooses to stay, not one I'm holding hostage. His expression remained unreadable. Sign or don't, your choice. Seraphina picked up the pen. For the second time in 12 hours, she made a decision that would either save her or destroy her. She signed. The next 8 hours were a hurricane of transformation. Stylists descended on the penthouse like a coordinated military operation. They brought racks of designer clothes, shoes in every style, jewelry that made Seraphina's eyes water at the implied cost. A woman named Ji Yeon led the operation, mid-30s, fashionable in that effortless Seoul way, with opinions delivered like artillery strikes. Your style with the Kwon family was too soft, she announced, circling Seraphina like prey. Pastels, modest cuts. You dressed like you were apologizing for existing. I was trying to fit in. Exactly. Wrong approach. Jiyeon snapped her fingers and assistants began draping Seraphina in different outfits. Mr. Seo's wife doesn't fit in. She stands out. Elegant but dangerous. Sophisticated but untouchable. Every woman should want to be you. Every man should fear approaching you. They settled on a wardrobe of blacks, deep jewel tones, cuts that emphasize Seraphina's height and bone structure. Nothing too revealing, nothing apologetic. Clothes that whispered power instead of screaming for attention. Better, Jiyeon declared after the sixth outfit change. You look expensive. I look exhausted. Same thing in Seoul. The makeup artist came next, someone who treated Seraphina's face like a canvas for psychological warfare. We're emphasizing your foreign features, she explained, applying something that made Seraphina's eyes look even larger. Your ex-husband's family wanted you to blend in. We want you to be unavoidably visible. By early evening, Seraphina barely recognized her reflection. The woman staring back looked like she belonged in high-end fashion magazines. Sharp, sophisticated, dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with violence. Lucian appeared as the styling team was packing up. He stopped in the doorway, studying Seraphina with that predator focus. Well, she asked, suddenly self-conscious. You'll do. High praise? I don't give empty compliments. He dismissed the stylist with a gesture. When they were alone, he stepped closer. Tomorrow we announce the engagement. The story is simple. We met at a charity function 6 months ago. We've been seeing each other quietly. When your marriage to Kwon Jae-hyun ended, I proposed immediately. People will know that's a lie. People always know. They just need a plausible narrative to repeat. His eyes traveled over her new appearance with clinical assessment. You need to practice looking at me like you're in love. I don't love you. Obviously, but the cameras need to believe you do. This is insane. This is war. Lucien moved close enough that Seraphina could smell that dangerous cologne again. When we're in public, you are madly, desperately in love with me. When you look at me, every other person in the room should disappear. When I touch you, you should react like it's the first time and the only time. Sell the illusion completely or this entire plan fails. His hand came up, fingers tracing her jawline with practiced precision. Not intimate, testing her reaction. Seraphina's breath caught despite herself. See? Lucian's voice dropped lower. You're already good at this. Lean into it. Use it. Make every man in Seoul jealous and every woman furious. And what do you get out of this performance? Legitimacy, distraction, revenge. His thumb brushed her lower lip. And the satisfaction of watching your ex-husband realize exactly what he threw away. Seraphina's heart hammered. This close, Lucien was overwhelming, beautiful and dangerous and absolutely in control. This isn't real, she whispered. No, but it needs to feel real. He stepped back abruptly, the moment severed like a cut wire. Get some rest. Tomorrow Seoul learns that the Shadow King has claimed a queen. He left. Seraphina stood in the middle of the penthouse, pulse racing, hands shaking slightly. This was all fake, a business arrangement, strategic performance. So why did her skin still burn where he'd touched her? What? The engagement announcement happened at noon at one of Seoul's most prestigious hotels. Seraphina wore a simple black dress that probably cost more than her old car. Her hair pulled back to emphasize her face, jewelry minimal but devastatingly expensive. Lucien stood beside her in a charcoal suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a fashion editorial on how to intimidate everyone in a room. The press conference room was packed with reporters, cameras, curious socialites who'd heard rumors. Seraphina recognized some faces, people who'd attended her wedding to Jae-hyun 7 years ago, now here to witness her resurrection. Lucian's hand rested on her lower back. Possessive. Protective. Ladies and gentlemen, his PR director began, thank you for coming. Mr. Seo has an announcement. Lucien stepped forward, Seraphina beside him, facing the wall of cameras and calculating eyes. 6 months ago I met someone extraordinary, he said, voice carrying perfectly across the room. Someone intelligent, resilient, and beautiful in ways that matter more than appearance. Today I'm honored to announce our engagement. He turned to Seraphina, and the look in his eyes almost convinced her it was real. Almost. Seraphina Vale has agreed to become my wife. We'll be married within the month. The room erupted. Cameras flashed like gunfire. Reporters shouted questions. Someone yelled, is this about the Kwan family? Another asked, how long have you been together? A third voice cut through. Are you pregnant? Lucian's expression went cold. My fiancé's personal life is none of your concern. We'll take 3 questions. Choose carefully. A woman from one of Seoul's major newspapers stood. Mr. Seo, you've never been publicly involved with anyone before. Why announce this engagement so suddenly? Because I don't wait when I know what I want. Another reporter. Ms. Vale, your divorce from Kwon Jae-hyun was just finalized. Some might say this is suspiciously fast. Seraphina remembered Ji-yeon's coaching. Stand tall. Don't apologize. Make them feel small for asking. My marriage to Jae-hyun ended long before the legal papers were signed, she said clearly. I'm not living my life according to other people's timelines. Lucien's hand tightened slightly on her back. Approval. Final question from a tabloid reporter. Is this revenge against the Kwan family? Lucien smiled. Sharks had friendlier smiles. I don't waste energy on revenge. I'm simply marrying the woman I love. If certain people feel uncomfortable about that, it says more about them than us. He guided Seraphina toward the exit, cameras still flashing, reporters still shouting. They walked through the chaos like it didn't exist, a united front of expensive clothes and calculated indifference. In the car afterward, Seraphina's hands started shaking. You did well, Lucien said, checking his phone. I feel like I'm going to vomit. Natural response. It gets easier. When? Never. But you get better at hiding it. He glanced at her. The Kwan family will have seen that announcement by now. I'd guess you'll receive a phone call within the hour. He was right. 37 minutes later, as they pulled up to the penthouse, Seraphina's phone exploded with messages. Most from numbers she didn't recognize, but one name made her stomach twist. Jae-hyun. She stared at the message preview. We need to talk. Please. Don't respond, Lucien said without looking up from his own phone. I wasn't going to. Yes, you were. You're curious, wondering if he'll apologize, if he'll beg, if he's realized his mistake. Lucien finally looked at her. He has. But it's too late. You're mine now, at least in the public narrative. And privately? Privately, you're your own person. But if Kwon Jae-hyun approaches you, I need to know. He's dangerous when desperate, and you represent a threat to his entire family's reputation now. Seraphina deleted the message without reading it fully. Jae-hyun's voice was the past. Lucien's dangerous presence was the future, at least for the next year or two. She just had to survive it. That night, Seraphina stood on the penthouse balcony staring at Seoul's glittering expanse. The city that had rejected her now watched her with new eyes. Tomorrow, the newspapers would run stories. Social media would explode. Her face would be everywhere. Can't sleep? She turned. Lucien stood in the doorway wearing dark pants and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd seen him. Less mafia boss. More just man. Processing, she said. He joined her at the railing, maintaining careful distance. Second thoughts. About which part? The fake engagement? The revenge plot? Marrying a criminal? Any of it. Seraphina breathed in the cold Seoul air. No. No second thoughts. I'm angry enough to see this through. Good. Anger's useful. Just don't let it make you reckless. They stood in silence, watching the city breathe below them. Car headlights tracked through streets like blood cells. Somewhere down there, Jae-hyun was probably panicking. His mother was probably screaming. Their entire social circle was probably trying to figure out how the foreign woman they'd dismissed as worthless had captured the city's most dangerous bachelor. Why me? Seraphina asked suddenly. Actually, not the strategic reasons. Why choose me specifically? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had a strange edge. Because you survived 7 years in a family that wanted you broken. Because you're still standing after they tried to destroy you. Because, he paused. Because I recognize that anger, that refusal to stay down. I needed someone who wouldn't shatter the first time things got difficult. You needed someone desperate enough to say yes. That too. Seraphina laughed, a real laugh, rough around the edges. You're honest, at least, brutally honest. Lies are inefficient, also emotionally devastating, but sure, let's focus on efficiency. He almost smiled. You're not what I expected. Meaning? Meaning most people in your position would either be terrified of me or trying to seduce me for permanent security. You're just angry. I respect that. Should I be trying to seduce you? The question came out more dangerous than Seraphina intended. Maybe the champagne from earlier. Maybe the adrenaline still singing through her blood. Maybe just exhaustion making her reckless. Lucien turned to face her fully, black eyes catching starlight. Do you want to? I want to know if this is just business or if you're attracted to me at all. Because the hand on my back earlier, the way you touched my face yesterday, that felt real. And I need to know if I'm reading signals or if you're just that good at faking. Both. Both? I'm very good at faking. His voice dropped lower. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't attracted to you. You're beautiful. You're sharp. You're dangerous in ways you don't fully understand yet. He stepped closer. But acting on that attraction would complicate things, make this arrangement messy. And you don't like messy. I don't like complications I can't control. Seraphina's heart hammered. So we're just business partners who find each other attractive but never act on it? For now. Lucien's hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was gentle. Too gentle for someone with his reputation. Ask me again in 6 months when you've seen what I actually am. When you understand the violence I'm capable of. When you realize the kind of man you've agreed to marry. Trying to scare me away? Trying to give you the truth before you mistake performance for reality. His fingers trailed down her neck, over her collarbone. This ends badly, Seraphina. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not obviously. But men like me don't get happy endings. We get survival, sometimes. Then why marry at all? Because survival looks better with legitimacy. And because destroying the Kwan family requires the perfect weapon. You are that weapon. He stepped back again, the moment severed. Get some sleep. We have an event tomorrow night, charity gala. The entire Seoul elite will be there, including your ex-husband and his family. Already? Strike while they're reeling. Don't give them time to recover. Lucien headed back inside, then paused at the doorway. Seraphina. Yeah? You asked why I chose you. The real answer? His eyes met hers across the darkness. Because when I saw you standing in that rain, suitcase in hand, soaked through but still standing, you reminded me of myself, before I learned to bury everything that made me human. I thought maybe... He trailed off. Never mind. Good night. He disappeared inside, leaving Seraphina alone on the balcony with the city lights and 1,000 questions she didn't have answers for. This was fake, strategic, temporary. So why did it already feel like she was falling into something with no bottom? The next evening arrived with terrifying speed. The charity gala was being held at one of Seoul's most exclusive hotels, the kind of event where million-dollar donations happened over champagne while string quartets played Vivaldi. Seoul's elite used these galas to see and be seen, to forge alliances and destroy reputations with carefully placed gossip. Seraphina wore an emerald silk gown that flowed like water and cost more than her first year's salary in Korea. Her hair was up, exposing her neck. Diamond earrings caught light like trapped stars. Ji-yeon had outdone herself. You look like a queen, the stylist had declared. Now act like one. In the car, Lucien adjusted his cufflinks with the precision of someone preparing for battle. He wore a black tuxedo that made him look like every rich woman's fantasy and every man's nightmare. "Remember the rules," he said without looking at her. "We're madly in love. You're confident, untouchable. The Kwan family will try to approach us. Don't engage beyond basic courtesy. Let me handle the power plays." "I'm not helpless." "I know, but you're also new to this world. Let me run defense until you understand the terrain." The car pulled up to red carpet chaos. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. Security held back crowds of curious onlookers. Lucian stepped out first, then offered his hand to Seraphina. The moment she emerged from the car, the crowd's energy shifted. Whispers rippled through gathered reporters. Cameras pivoted. Lucien's arm wrapped around her waist, possessive, protective, and they walked the red carpet like they owned it. Inside, the ballroom was a fantasy of crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and Seoul's wealthiest citizens in designer formal wear. Conversation hummed like insects. Laughter came in calculated bursts, and then Seraphina saw them. Across the ballroom, near the champagne station, Jae-hyun and his mother. Her ex-husband looked smaller than she remembered. His mother wore fury like expensive perfume. Their eyes met across the room. Jae-hyun's face went pale. Lucian felt Seraphina tense. His hand squeezed her waist slightly. "Breathe. You're stronger than them now." "I don't feel strong." "That's because you're measuring strength wrong. They threw you away thinking you were nothing. Now you're on the arm of Seoul's most powerful man. They're terrified. You won." His lips brushed her ear. "Walk with me. Let them watch." They moved through the ballroom together. Lucienne greeting business associates and politicians with calculated charm while keeping Seraphina close. People stared, whispered. Some women looked at Seraphina with envy. Some men looked at Lucienne with fear. "Mr. Seo!" A voice cut through the ambient noise. They turned. Jae-hyun stood 3 feet away, looking like a man walking toward execution. Up close, he looked exhausted, circles under his eyes, jaw tight. "Kwon Jae-hyun," Lucienne said with cold politeness. "I don't believe you've officially met my fiancé." The cruelty was surgical. Jae-hyun's eyes met Seraphina's. She saw regret there, panic, the dawning realization of catastrophic mistake. "Seraphina," he said quietly, "you look beautiful." "Thank you." Her voice came out steady, cold. Nothing like the apologetic woman who'd spent 7 years trying to earn his family's approval. Jae-hyun opened his mouth, closed it. Clearly wanted to say something but couldn't find words. "If you'll excuse us," Lucian said smoothly, already steering Seraphina away. But Jae-hyun grabbed her wrist. "Please, can we talk? Privately?" Lucian An's entire energy shifted. The charming businessman vanished. The man standing beside Seraphina became something else, something dark and absolutely lethal. "Remove your hand," Lucian said quietly. "Now." Jae-hyun let go like he'd been burned. "She's my—" Jae-hyun started. "She's nothing to you." Lucian's voice could have cut glass. "You threw her away. I claimed her. Those are the rules of your world. Don't touch what's mine again." He guided Seraphina away, leaving Jae-hyun standing alone in the middle of the ballroom. "Are you okay?" Lucian asked once they were safely near the balcony doors. "Yes. No, I don't know." Seraphina's hands were shaking. "That felt powerful? Terrifying. Same thing from different angles." Lucienne handed her a glass of champagne that seemed to materialize from nowhere. "You did well. Didn't engage, didn't apologize. Just existed as someone he can't touch anymore." Seraphina drank the champagne too fast. "He wanted to apologize. Probably. Part of me wanted to hear it." "That's natural, doesn't mean you should." Lucian studied her carefully. "The woman who needed his apology doesn't exist anymore. You're someone else now." "Who?" His eyes held hers. "My wife. Seoul's new queen. The woman who's going to help me destroy an empire." The weight of it crashed over Seraphina again. This wasn't just revenge. This was war. And she'd become a weapon Lucienne intended to use with surgical precision against people she once called family. "I want to leave," she whispered. "Not yet." We stay another hour. Let everyone see us together. Let the message sink in completely. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. Can you hold on that long? Seraphina looked at their joined hands, at the man who'd pulled her from the rain and offered her power in exchange for performance, at the ballroom full of people who were already rewriting her story. Yes, she said, I can hold on. And standing there beside Lucien Xiu, criminal, savior, stranger, watching her ex-husband dissolve into the crowd while Seoul's elite whispered behind expensive champagne, Seraphina Vale realized something fundamental had shifted. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was hunting. Tamod says. 3 weeks later, Seoul's most scandalous wedding would happen in absolute silence. No press, no ceremony, just signatures on paper that transferred ownership of a woman from one powerful man to another. But by then, the Kwan family would be bleeding from wounds Lucien had carefully inflicted, and Seraphina would have learned something terrifying. Revenge tastes sweeter than she'd ever imagined. The only question was whether she'd remember the difference between justice and cruelty before she became exactly what she was fighting against. The wedding happened in a lawyer's office on a Tuesday morning with rain streaking the windows. No flowers, no music, no guests. Just Seraphina in a cream silk dress that cost more than most weddings, Lucien in a dark suit that made him look like he was attending a funeral, and 2 lawyers who witnessed signatures on documents that legally bound them together. Congratulations, the lawyer said without emotion. You're married. Seraphina stared at the marriage certificate. Her name, Seraphina Velaseo, looked foreign in Korean characters, like someone else's identity. Lucien's hand appeared in her peripheral vision, palm up. Ring. She'd almost forgotten. The engagement ring had been for show, a flawless diamond that photographers loved. The wedding band was simpler, platinum, understated, the kind of ring that whispered old money instead of screaming for attention. He slid it onto her finger with practiced efficiency. No romance, no declarations, just a transaction completed. Your turn, Seraphina said. She placed the matching band on his finger. His hands were warm, steady, hands that had probably killed people, hands that now wore a symbol of commitment to a woman he barely knew. We have a dinner reservation at 7, Lucien said as they left the office. Balwu Gongyang, Michelin-starred temple cuisine. Seoul's elite go there to be seen. Our wedding dinner. Our public debut as husband and wife. There's a difference. In the car, Seraphina twisted the ring around her finger. It felt heavy, foreign, like wearing someone else's skin. Regrets already? Lucien asked without looking up from his phone. Just processing the fact that I'm now legally married to a man whose first name I learned 4 weeks ago. You knew my reputation before my first name. Most people would argue that's more important. Most people aren't married to you. He almost smiled. Fair point. Seoul slid past the tinted windows, a city of 10 million people living stacked lives, completely unaware that the woman they dismissed as worthless had just become one of the most legally protected people in the country. As Lucien Sio's wife, Seraphina was untouchable. His enemies wouldn't dare approach her. His allies would treat her with careful respect. The cage had changed, but it was still a cage. I need to know something, Seraphina said suddenly. The Kwan family. What exactly are you planning? Lucien set down his phone. You want details now, after we're legally bound? I want to know what I just signed up for. He studied her for a long moment, black eyes calculating. Then he pulled a folder from his briefcase and handed it over. Inside were financial documents, photographs, recorded conversations, evidence of embezzlement, illegal gambling debts, money laundering through shell companies. The Kwan family's empire was built on corruption so deep it would take years to fully untangle. Jae-hyun's father has been stealing from his own company for 15 years, Lucien explained. Your ex-husband knew, helped cover it up. The mother's gambling addiction has cost them approximately 40 billion won. They've been paying me interest on those debts for 3 years. Seraphina's stomach turned. How did you get all this? I own half the illegal gambling operations in Seoul. When wealthy people need money quietly, they come to me. When they can't pay, I own them. His expression remained neutral. The Kwan family has been in my pocket since before you married Jae-hyun. I just waited for the right moment to pull the trigger. And I'm that moment. You're the perfect catalyst. The foreign daughter-in-law they discarded publicly, now married to their biggest creditor. It's humiliating, destabilizing, and it gives me legal justification to call in their debts immediately. Seraphina closed the folder. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. That was either growth or numbness. When? 2 weeks. I'll file a lawsuit demanding full repayment. They can't cover it. Their liquid assets are already leveraged. They'll have to sell properties, liquidate investments, potentially declare bankruptcy. He paused. Your ex-husband will lose everything his family built over 3 generations. Good. The word came out cold. Certain. Seraphina barely recognized her own voice. Lucian's eyes flickered with something. Approval, maybe? Or concern? You've changed. You wanted me to change. You said I needed to become untouchable. There's a difference between untouchable and unfeeling. Is there? Seraphina met his gaze. You're the one who told me anger is useful. I'm using it. Just don't let it consume you completely. I need you sharp, not self-destructive. Why do you care? The question hung between them like smoke. Outside, Seoul continued its relentless motion. Cars, people, ambition flowing through concrete arteries. Because you're my wife now, Lucian said finally, and I protect what's mine. Even if I'm just a business asset? Especially then. Assets are valuable precisely because they're protected. It wasn't romance, wasn't even affection. But it was honest, and somehow that felt more reliable than any of Jae-hyun's empty promises had been. The car pulled up to the restaurant. Through the windows, Seraphina could see other diners. Seoul's wealthy elite in expensive clothes, eating cuisine that cost more per bite than most people's daily wages. Ready? Lucian asked. Seraphina straightened her dress, checked her reflection in the tinted window. The woman staring back looked composed, elegant, dangerous. Ready? They walked into the restaurant like they owned it. Dinner was performance art disguised as cuisine. 9 courses of temple-inspired dishes that looked like abstract paintings. Each plate arrived with explanation, the philosophy behind the preparation, the seasonal significance, the meditation practice it honored. Seraphina barely tasted any of it. She was too aware of the other diners watching them, too conscious of Lucian's hand resting casually on her thigh beneath the table, too focused on playing the role of devoted newlywed while her mind catalogued every face that stared too long. Mrs. Seo. She looked up. A woman in her 60s stood beside their table. Expensive jewelry, surgical perfection, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Mrs. Choi, Lucian said smoothly, I didn't know you'd be here tonight. I heard congratulations are in order. Mrs. Choi's smile didn't reach her eyes. Such a surprising marriage. You were with the Kwan family for quite some time, weren't you, Mrs. Seo? The question was a grenade with the pin already pulled. Seraphina set down her chopsticks with deliberate calm. 7 years. But I'm sure you already knew that. Of course. Seoul is a small city. We all know everyone's business. Mrs. Choi's eyes glittered. Though I must say, moving from one prominent family to, well, your husband's business interests are quite different from the Kwan's. Different doesn't mean inferior, Seraphina said. Of course not. I simply mean that Lucian's enterprises are more, shall we say, colorful. The Kwan family at least maintains appearances. Lucian's hand tightened on Seraphina's thigh. A warning, don't engage. But Seraphina was done backing down. The Kwan family's appearances are built on lies, she said clearly. My husband's enterprises, however colorful, are at least honest about what they are. Mrs. Choi's smile froze. Around them, other diners had stopped eating. Conversations died. The entire restaurant was suddenly listening. Well, Mrs. Choi said stiffly, I can see you've learned new manners. How refreshing. She walked away, heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. That was stupid, Lucian said quietly. That was necessary. You just made an enemy of one of Seoul's most connected socialites. Good. I'm tired of pretending these people aren't vultures. Seraphina picked up her chopsticks again. Her hands were steady. You wanted me untouchable. Untouchable women don't apologize. Lucian stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a real laugh, rough around the edges. You're going to be a nightmare, he said. You married me anyway. My worst decision or my best. Time will tell. The rest of dinner passed without incident. though Seraphina felt the weight of every gaze, every whispered conversation happening just out of earshot. Seoul's elite were rewriting her story in real time, and she was no longer the apologetic foreign wife who couldn't produce an heir. She was the woman who'd married the Shadow King and told the aristocracy to go to hell. By the time they returned to the penthouse, exhaustion had settled into Seraphina's bones like lead. "I'm going to bed," she announced, heading toward the stairs. "Seraphina." She turned. Lucian stood in the middle of the living room, backlit by floor-to-ceiling windows and the glowing Seoul skyline. "You did well tonight," he said. "Better than I expected." "High praise." "I mean it. You're becoming exactly what I need you to be. A weapon? A partner." The word hit differently than she'd expected. Partner implied equality, implied trust, implied something more than just strategic arrangement. "Don't," Seraphina said. "Don't what?" "Don't make this feel real. Don't compliment me like you actually care. Don't blur the lines we agreed on." Her voice cracked slightly. "This is business. You keep reminding me of that, so keep reminding yourself too." She walked upstairs before he could respond, before the exhaustion and confusion and buried loneliness could crack her open completely. In her room, not their room, never their room, Seraphina stripped out of the expensive dress and collapsed onto the bed. The wedding band caught light from the windows. She should take it off, should establish the boundary between performance and reality, but her fingers wouldn't move. Somewhere in the penthouse, Lucien was probably working, planning, calculating the next move in his war against the Kwan family. And Seraphina was lying in expensive sheets wearing a stranger's ring, wondering when exactly she'd stopped being the victim and become the villain. The lawsuit hit 3 days later. Seraphina was drinking coffee on the balcony when her phone exploded with notifications, news alerts, social media mentions, messages from numbers she didn't recognize. She opened the first news article. Shadow King files lawsuit against Kwan family empire, demands 15 billion won. The article detailed everything: the gambling debts, the embezzlement, the money laundering. Lucien had released just enough evidence to destroy the Kwan family's reputation without revealing his own criminal connections. It was surgical, brutal, perfectly executed. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered anyway. "You bitch!" Jaehyun's mother's voice came through like acid. "You planned this. You married that criminal to destroy us." "I married someone who values me," Seraphina said calmly. "That's not my fault. We gave you everything: a home, a name, respectability. You gave me 7 years of humiliation and called me worthless when I couldn't give you what you wanted. Don't pretend you were doing me favors. You'll regret this. My family has connections. We'll bury you both." "Try." Seraphina's voice went cold. "My husband eats people like you for breakfast." She hung up. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the vicious satisfaction of finally fighting back. Lucian appeared in the doorway. "I heard yelling." Jaehyun's mother. She called to threaten me. "What did you say?" "That you eat people like her for breakfast." He almost smiled. "Accurate. Though I prefer lunch. Breakfast is too early for vengeance." Despite everything, Seraphina laughed. It came out slightly unhinged. "This is real now," she said. "Before it was theoretical. Now it's actually happening." "Having second thoughts?" "No, just processing the fact that I've become the kind of person who threatens my ex-mother-in-law without hesitation." Lucien moved to stand beside her at the railing. Seoul stretched below them, a city built on ambition and destruction, where fortunes rose and fell based on who you knew and who you destroyed. "You're not a bad person," he said quietly. "You're just learning how to fight back." "What's the difference?" "Intent. Bad people destroy for pleasure. You're destroying people who hurt you first. That's justice, not cruelty." "You really believe that?" He was silent for a moment. "I have to. Otherwise, everything I've done is unforgivable." It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to her, a glimpse beneath the cold businessman facade to something raw and damaged underneath. Seraphina wanted to ask what he'd done, what violence haunted him, what made a man build an empire on fear instead of love. But before she could speak, his phone rang. Seo, he answered. His expression shifted immediately. When? How many? A pause. I'm on my way. He hung up and turned to Seraphina. I have to leave. Something's happened. What kind of something? The kind I handle personally. He was already moving toward the door. Stay here. Don't leave the penthouse. Don't answer the door. Mrs. Kang will be here, but she won't bother you. Lucien, I'll be back by morning. He stopped at the doorway. I mean it. Stay here. The Kwan family is cornered and desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. Then he was gone. Seraphina stood alone on the balcony, watching the city lights blur together, wondering what kind of emergency required the Shadow King to leave at 10 o'clock at night, and wondering if she'd ever actually know the man she'd married beyond his carefully constructed walls. Morning came without Lucien. Seraphina woke to empty penthouse and silence so complete it felt aggressive. She checked her phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. Mrs. Kang appeared with breakfast. Mr. Seo will be delayed. He sends his apologies. Where is he? I don't ask questions I don't want answered, Mrs. Seo. I suggest you adopt the same policy. The housekeeper left. Seraphina pushed food around her plate without eating. Something felt wrong. The air itself seemed heavy with approaching storm. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You should know what your husband is. Check the parking garage. Level B3. A friend. Every instinct screamed trap. But curiosity was a disease, and Seraphina had always been infected. She took the elevator down to B3. The parking garage was dark, smelling of concrete and oil. Lucien's cars were parked in reserved spots. The Mercedes he'd first picked her up in, a Bentley she'd never seen him drive, a blacked-out SUV that looked military grade. A manila envelope sat on the Mercedes's hood. Seraphina picked it up with shaking hands. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Lucien in dark alleys. Lucien meeting with men who looked like criminals. Lucien standing over someone on the ground. She couldn't see details, but the implication was clear. Violence. Maybe worse. The final photograph stopped her breathing. Lucien shaking hands with Jae-hyun's father, both men smiling. The timestamp said 3 years ago, when Seraphina was still married to Jae-hyun, still trying desperately to get pregnant, still believing her husband's family saw her as human. She flipped the photo over, a note in Korean characters that she struggled to read. They've been business partners longer than you've been his wife. Ask him who really destroyed your marriage. Seraphina's hands went numb. It couldn't be true. Lucien had sworn he was destroying the Kwan family, that marrying her was revenge against people who'd wronged her. But what if that was a lie? What if he'd been working with them all along? What if she was just another piece in a game she didn't understand? Mrs. Seo, she spun around. A man emerged from the shadows, 50s, expensive suit, the kind of face that had seen violence and learned to enjoy it. Who are you? Someone who thinks you deserve the truth. Your husband isn't what he claims. The lawsuit against the Kwan family? Theater. They've been laundering money together for years. He's not destroying them. He's helping them hide assets before a federal investigation closes in. You're lying. Am I? The man stepped closer. Ask yourself why Lucien Seo, who's never had a public relationship, suddenly married his business partner's ex-daughter-in-law. Ask yourself why the most ruthless man in Seoul would risk his reputation on a woman he barely knows. Ask yourself what he's really getting out of this arrangement. Seraphina's mind raced. The pieces didn't fit, couldn't fit. Lucien had shown her evidence, had filed a lawsuit, had publicly humiliated the Kwan family, unless all of that was misdirection. What do you want? She asked. I want you to understand you're married to a man who uses people like chess pieces. And when he's done with you, he'll discard you exactly like your first husband did. The man pulled out a business card. When you're ready to hear the full truth, call me. I'll tell you everything. He disappeared back into the shadows. Seraphina stood alone in the parking garage, holding photographs that proved, what? That Lucien had a past with the Kwan family? That wasn't exactly shocking. He told her they owed him money. But the handshake photograph bothered her. The smiles bothered her. The timestamp bothered her. She went back upstairs, photographs burning in her hands. Ketriga. Lucien returned at 3 in the afternoon, looking exhausted. His suit was rumpled. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He'd been awake for over 30 hours. Seraphina was waiting in the living room. "We need to talk," she said. He looked at her carefully. "What happened?" She threw the photographs on the coffee table between them. "Someone left these for me, with a very interesting story about you and the Kwan family being business partners." Lucien picked up the photos, his expression unreadable. When he reached the handshake photograph, something flickered across his face, anger maybe, or recognition. "Who gave you these?" "A man in the parking garage. He said you're not destroying the Kwan family. You're helping them hide money before federal investigation finds them." "And you believed him?" "I don't know what to believe. You've been lying to people your entire life. How do I know you're not lying to me?" Lucien set down the photographs with careful precision. "That photo was taken 3 years ago, before I knew you existed. Before you married Jae Hyun. Yes, I had business with his father. That's how I know about their corruption. Or you're part of it." "I'm part of a lot of things, Seraphina, but I don't lie to my wife." "I'm not really your wife. I'm a business arrangement. You said so yourself." "I said a lot of things before I actually knew you." The admission hung between them. Seraphina's heart hammered. This was the moment, the point where she either trusted him or walked away. "Tell me the truth," she said. "All of it. Not the strategic version, the real version." Lucien was silent for a long moment. Then he sat down, suddenly looking as exhausted as he must feel. "Yes, I did business with Kwan's father. Illegal business. Money laundering, primarily. I helped him hide embezzled funds through my network. That's how I learned the extent of their corruption." He met her eyes. "When you married Jae Hyun, I knew about you peripherally. Foreign wife, trying to have children. I didn't think about you at all. You were just another rich man's accessory." Seraphina flinched. "Then I heard about the divorce, heard how they threw you out. Heard Jae Hyun's mother publicly humiliate you at some charity function where she was drunk on expensive wine and gambling losses." His voice went quiet. "Something about it bothered me. Maybe because I know what it's like to be discarded by people who think they're better than you, so I started watching you." "Watching me?" "Making sure you were safe, making sure you weren't doing anything stupid in your grief. And I realized you were tougher than anyone gave you credit for. You didn't fall apart, didn't beg to come back, just kept existing, kept standing." He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "The plan to marry you came later, after I realized the Kwan family was going to be investigated by federal prosecutors. After I realized I needed distance from them immediately, or I'd go down with their ship. Marrying you accomplished 2 things: publicly severed my connection to them, and gave me a legitimate reason to call in their debts and expose their crimes. You were the perfect excuse. So I was a strategy. You were a strategy that became something else." His black eyes held hers. "I didn't expect to actually care about you. That was never part of the plan. But watching you learn to fight back, watching you become this sharp, dangerous version of yourself, it changed something. You're not just a business asset anymore, Seraphina. You're—" "What?" "Someone I don't want to hurt." The confession came out raw, unpolished, nothing like the smooth criminal she'd married. Seraphina's hands were shaking again. "How do I know you're telling the truth now?" "You don't. You have to choose to believe me or not." Lucien stood slowly. "But I can tell you this. The man who gave you those photographs works for a rival syndicate. They want me destroyed. Turning my wife against me would be an efficient way to accomplish that. Maybe. Or maybe you're lying right now to keep your strategy intact. Maybe I am." He moved toward the stairs. "But ask yourself something, Seraphina. If I was just using you, why would I give you an ironclad prenup that lets you walk away any time? Why would I protect you this carefully? Why would I care whether you trust me or not?" He climbed the stairs, leaving her alone with photographs and questions that had no clean answers. 3 days of silence. Seraphina avoided Lucien. He avoided her. They existed in the same penthouse like hostile roommates, paths carefully timed to never cross. The photographs sat in her nightstand drawer. She'd look at them sometimes, trying to decode the truth from frozen moments. But truth was slippery, especially when everyone involved was lying about something. On the 4th day, Lucien knocked on her bedroom door. "Come in," she said. He entered wearing casual clothes, dark jeans, black sweater. He looked human, tired, less like the Shadow King and more like just a man. "We need to attend an event tonight," he said. "Art gallery opening in Gangnam. Seoul's elite will be there, including your ex-husband." "I don't want to go." "I know, but we have to. Staying silent makes us look weak, like those photographs actually damaged us." Seraphina sat up. "Maybe they did." "Did they?" He studied her carefully. "Or are you looking for an excuse to stop fighting?" "I'm looking for a reason to trust you. Trust is earned, not given." "I understand that." Lucian moved closer, sitting on the edge of her bed with careful distance between them. "I can't prove I'm telling the truth. I can only keep showing up, keep protecting you, keep being honest even when it's inconvenient. That's not enough." "Then what is?" "I don't know." Seraphina's voice cracked. "I don't know how to trust anyone anymore. Jaehyun promised to love me and threw me away. His family promised respect and gave me humiliation. You promised revenge and gave me doubt. Everyone lies, everyone uses people. I don't know how to exist in a world where nothing is real." Lucian was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled up his sweater, revealing his torso. Scars covered his skin. Some looked surgical. Others looked violent. A particularly brutal one traced from his ribs down to his hip. The kind of scar that came from someone trying to kill you slowly. "This is what's real," he said quietly. "I grew up in Bucheon, poor neighborhood. My father ran a small gambling den, barely legal. When I was 14, a rival gang decided to take over his territory. They killed him in front of me. Made me watch. Then they gave me this," he touched the long scar, "as a warning to never fight back." Seraphina's breath caught. "I spent 3 years recovering, 3 years planning. By the time I was 17, I'd built my own crew and destroyed everyone who touched my father. By 20, I controlled 3 districts. By 25, half of Seoul's underworld knew my name." He pulled the sweater back down. "Every person I've destroyed deserved it. Every crime I've committed served a purpose. Every lie I've told protected something I cared about. But I have never, not once, hurt someone who didn't hurt me first." He met her eyes. "You didn't hurt me. You're collateral damage from someone else's cruelty. And I don't destroy collateral damage. I protect it." Seraphina's hands shook. This was the truth. Not the polished version, not the strategic calculation, just raw history carved into his body. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you asked for a reason to trust me. This is the only one I have. I'm not a good man, Seraphina. But I'm a man who keeps his word. And I swore to protect you." His voice dropped lower. "That photograph you saw, me shaking hands with Jaehyun's father? That was 3 years ago, before I knew their family would destroy you. If I'd known, I would have destroyed them then, saved you the pain." "You can't know that." "Yes, I can. Because the only thing I hate more than traitors is people who break vulnerable things for sport. Your ex-husband's family did that to you, and they'll pay for it. That's not strategy, that's promise." Seraphina felt something crack open inside her chest. All the anger, all the fear, all the exhaustion pouring out at once. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to be married to you. I don't know how to trust you. I don't know how to be the person you need me to be." "You're already that person. You just haven't accepted it yet." "What if I never accept it? What if I stay broken?" Lucian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her face with unexpected gentleness. "Then you stay broken, and I'll protect you anyway, because that's what I do for people who belong to me." "I don't belong to anyone." "No, you don't." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "But you're mine anyway. That's the difference." Before Seraphina could overthink it, before fear could stop her, she kissed him. Not the careful performance kisses they'd shared for cameras. Not the strategic brushes of lips at public events. Real. Desperate. Fueled by weeks of tension and confusion and the terrifying realization that somewhere in this fake marriage something genuine had started growing. Lucian froze for a heartbeat. Then he kissed her back like a man starving. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers dug into his shoulders. The kiss turned rough, urgent,
years of buried loneliness exploding between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Seraphina's mind was screaming warnings.
This was dangerous. This complicated everything. This turned their business arrangement into something that could actually hurt her. "We shouldn't," she said. "Probably not. This changes things. Everything." "Lucien." He kissed her again, softer this time. "I know, but I stopped caring about strategy the moment you looked at me like I was human instead of monster." Seraphina's heart hammered. "What does this mean?" "I don't know, but we can figure it out later." He stood, pulling her up with him. "Right now we have an art gallery to attend. We need to show Seoul that nothing shakes us. Can you do that?" She looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd shown her his scars and called it trust. "Yes," Seraphina said. "I can do that." But as she dressed for the gallery opening, as she painted on the mask of confident wife, as she prepared to walk back into Seoul's elite circles with her hand in Lucien's, one thought kept circling her mind. She'd just crossed a line she couldn't uncross, and there was no going back. But the gallery opening was everything Seoul's art scene aspired to be. White walls displaying paintings that cost more than cars, champagne flowing like water, beautiful people in expensive clothes pretending to understand abstract expressionism. Seraphina wore black. Simple, elegant, expensive. Her hair was pulled back to expose the line of her neck. The wedding ring caught gallery light. Lucien's hand rested on her lower back. Possessive, protective. But now it felt different. Now she knew what his skin felt like under her fingers. What he tasted like. What sound he made when she'd kissed him. "Focus," he murmured in her ear. "You're blushing." "I'm not." "You are. And half the room is watching." She forced her expression neutral. Untouchable wife. Queen beside the Shadow King. Not a woman who'd kissed her husband an hour ago and couldn't stop thinking about it. They moved through the gallery together, Lucien greeting business associates with calculated charm, while Seraphina played her role perfectly. She'd learned the rhythms, how to smile without warmth, how to deflect questions, how to make people feel small with just a look. "Seraphina." She turned. Jaehyun stood 3 feet away, holding champagne like a life raft. He looked terrible. Weight loss, exhaustion carved into his face, expensive suit that couldn't hide the fact that he was falling apart. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "Please, just 5 minutes." Lucien's hand tightened on her back. "No. I'm not asking you. I'm asking my ex-wife. Your ex-wife is my current wife, so you're asking me." Lucien's voice went cold. "And I'm saying no. Walk away, Kwan." But Seraphina put her hand on Lucien's chest. "It's fine. 5 minutes." "Seraphina, I can handle him." Something flickered in Lucien's eyes. Not anger, concern maybe. But he nodded and stepped back slightly, giving them space while staying close enough to intervene. Jaehyun led her to a quieter corner of the gallery, near a massive painting of chaos in red and black. "You look happy," he said. "I am." "Are you?" His eyes searched hers. "Or are you just better at pretending now?" Seraphina crossed her arms. "What do you want, Jaehyun?" "To apologize." "Actually apologize. Not the corporate version, not the saving face version. Real apology." His voice cracked. "I was weak. I let my mother control everything. I should have defended you, should have told her you were enough exactly as you were. I threw away the best thing in my life because I was too cowardly to fight for you." "You're right." He blinked, clearly expecting argument. "You were weak," Seraphina continued. "You were a coward. You stood silent while your mother destroyed me. And now your family is collapsing and you want, what? Forgiveness? Sympathy? I want you to know I'm sorry, that I regret every second of how I treated you, that if I could go back, you can't. That's the point." Seraphina leaned closer, voice dropping. "You made your choice. You chose your mother's approval over my dignity. You chose silence over defending me. You chose comfort over love. Those were your decisions, Jaehyun, and now you live with consequences." "So you married him for revenge?" "I married him because he makes me feel powerful instead of worthless. because he fights for me instead of abandoning me, because he looks at me like I'm worth protecting. She paused. You never did that. Not once in 7 years. Jae-hyun's face crumpled. I loved you. No. You loved the idea of having a beautiful foreign wife. You loved how I made you look, but you never loved me enough to choose me when it mattered. And he does? A criminal? A man who's probably killed people? Maybe. Or maybe I've stopped caring whether love is clean and started accepting that real love is messy, violent, and fought for. Seraphina stepped back. Either way, it's none of your business anymore. Your 5 minutes are up. She walked away, leaving him standing alone beside a painting of chaos. Lucien appeared immediately, hand finding hers. Okay? Better than okay. He tried to apologize? Yeah. And I told him to live with his regrets. Seraphina looked up at him. I meant what I said in there. About you. Lucien's expression shifted, vulnerable, dangerous. Which part? All of it. Before he could respond, someone screamed. The sound cut through gallery conversations like a blade. People scattered. Security rushed toward the commotion. Lucien pulled Seraphina behind him immediately, his entire body shifting into something lethal and controlled. Stay here, he ordered. What's happening? I don't know, but stay behind me. They moved toward the crowd. People were backing away from something on the floor near the gallery entrance. A body. Seraphina's breath stopped. A man lay sprawled on the white floor, blood pooling beneath him. She couldn't see his face but recognized the expensive suit. The man from the parking garage. The one who'd given her the photographs. Someone had killed him. Here. At a public event attended by Seoul's wealthiest citizens. A message. Lucien's phone buzzed. He looked at it, expression going dark. We're leaving. Now. Lucien. Now, Seraphina. He dragged her toward the exit, security parting to let them through. The last thing she saw before they disappeared into the night was Jae-hyun's shocked face and blood spreading across white gallery floors like abstract art. In the car, Seraphina's hand shook. Who was he? Someone who made a mistake. What kind of mistake? The kind that gets you killed. Lucien's voice was ice. He worked for the Changpa, rival syndicate. They've been trying to destabilize my operations for months. Giving you those photographs was their opening move. And the killing? Their second move. Warning that they're not afraid of public exposure. Seraphina's mind raced. This is because of me. Because I'm your wife. This is because of a power struggle that existed long before you. You're just caught in crossfire. That's supposed to make me feel better? Lucien looked at her directly. No. It's supposed to make you understand how dangerous this world actually is. I told you marrying me would make you a target. This is what that looks like. The car pulled into the penthouse building's underground garage. Security was everywhere. Armed men in dark suits who hadn't been there this morning. What's happening? Seraphina asked. I'm protecting what's mine. Lucien helped her out of the car. The Changpa just declared war. Killing one of their own at a public event to embarrass me, that's an act of war, so I'm responding accordingly. How? His eyes were black ice. You don't want to know. They rode the elevator in silence. Seraphina's heart wouldn't stop hammering. She'd known Lucien was dangerous, known he killed people, known marrying him meant entering a violent world. But knowing something intellectually and watching blood pool on gallery floors were very different things. At the penthouse, Lucien immediately disappeared into his third-floor office. Seraphina heard him making calls, voice sharp, commands delivered in rapid Korean she couldn't fully follow. She stood in the living room, still wearing her black dress, still seeing that body on white floors. This was her life now. Violence, danger, blood. And somewhere in the middle of it all, she'd fallen for the man orchestrating the chaos. Mrs. Kang appeared with tea. You should rest, Mrs. Seo. I can't. Mr. Seo will handle everything. He always does. That's what I'm afraid of. The housekeeper studied her with something like sympathy. You're learning that loving dangerous men means accepting dangerous consequences. I never said I loved him. You didn't have to. Mrs. Kang set down the tea. I've worked for Mr. Seo for 12 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you.
and I've never seen him this afraid. He's not afraid. He's terrified. Because you matter now, and that gives his enemies leverage they've never had before. She left Seraphina alone with tea and truths that tasted like ash. Hours later, Lucien finally emerged from his office. 3 a.m, Seoul glowing below them like a dying star. "It's handled," he said. "What does that mean?" "It means the Cheongpa won't come near you again." "Because you killed them?" He didn't answer, didn't need to. The answer was written in his exhausted face. Seraphina should have been horrified, should have run, should have called the lawyers and activated the divorce clause in their prenup. Instead, she walked to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. Lucien froze. Then his arms came around her slowly, like he'd forgotten how to hold something gently. "You should leave," he said into her hair. "This is what I am. Violence wrapped in expensive suits. You deserve better." "Probably. So leave." "No." Seraphina said. She pulled back to look at him. "I'm not leaving. Not because I'm trapped. Not because I'm scared. Because somewhere in this absolute nightmare, you became the person I choose. Scars and violence and danger included." "That's insane." "Everything about this is insane. I married a mafia boss for revenge and fell in love with him somewhere between fake kisses and real confessions. I'm way past sane." Lucian's hands cupped her face. "You don't love me. You love the idea of someone who fights for you." "Maybe. Or maybe I love the man who showed me his scars and called it trust. Maybe I love the man who protects me absolutely while giving me freedom to choose. Maybe I love you exactly as you are, violent, dangerous, and somehow the safest thing in my life." "That doesn't make sense." "Love never does." He kissed her then, desperate, consuming, like she was the only real thing in a world of lies. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Seraphina knew with absolute certainty there was no going back. No pretending this was just business. No keeping walls between strategy and emotion. She'd crossed the point of no return, and she'd done it willingly. Morning came with blood under Lucian's fingernails. Seraphina woke to find him standing at the bathroom sink, scrubbing his hands with the methodical precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. Water ran pink into white porcelain. His shirt was gone, revealing the landscape of scars she'd seen last night, each one a story of survival written in damaged skin. He didn't notice her in the doorway, just kept scrubbing, face blank, movements mechanical. "Lucien!" He looked up, their eyes met in the mirror. For a second she saw something raw in his expression, exhaustion maybe, or the kind of hollowness that came from doing terrible things for good reasons. "Go back to bed," he said quietly. "Whose blood is that?" "Nobody's anymore." The statement hung between them like smoke. Seraphina should have been horrified, should have demanded details, should have run. Instead, she walked to him, took his hands from the sink, and dried them herself with a towel that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. His fingers were shaking, barely visible, but there. The Shadow King, Seoul's most feared criminal, standing in a marble bathroom with trembling hands while his wife dried blood from his skin. "Did they suffer?" she asked. "Does it matter?" "To me? No. To you?" She looked up at him. "Yes." Lucien's jaw tightened. "I made it quick. I'm not a sadist. Just a killer. Just a man protecting what's his." He pulled his hands away gently. "You shouldn't be okay with this. I'm not okay with any of this, but I'm choosing it anyway. There's a difference." She left him standing there, went back to bed, and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion dragged her under again. When she woke the second time, afternoon light was bleeding through windows and Lucien was gone. A note sat on the nightstand in his precise handwriting. "Meeting with lawyers. Back by dinner. Don't answer the door." Seraphina showered, dressed in clothes that felt like armor, and tried very hard not to think about blood spiraling down drains. She was drinking coffee on the balcony when her phone rang. Unknown number. Again. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity was a disease she'd never learned to cure. "Hello? Mrs. Seo." A woman's voice, smooth and cultured. "We haven't met formally. My name is Director Han Ji-won. I work for the Financial Supervisory Service." Seraphina's stomach dropped. Government. Federal investigation. Everything Lucien had warned about. I'm listening. I'd like to meet with you, privately. Today, if possible. There are some questions about your husband's business activities that you might be able to help answer. I don't know anything about his business. Perhaps, or perhaps you know more than you realize. A pause. I'm investigating money laundering operations connected to several Seoul crime syndicates. Your husband's name has come up repeatedly, as has your connection to the Kwon family. Seraphina's hands went cold. I'm not discussing my husband with federal investigators. Even if it means protecting yourself, Mrs. Seo, you signed a prenuptial agreement that claims to shield you from legal responsibility for your husband's crimes. But I've seen those contracts before. They rarely hold up in court when prosecutors push hard enough. And we're pushing very hard right now. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you an opportunity. Meet with me. Answer some questions. Help us understand the financial network we're investigating. In exchange, I can ensure you're not caught in the legal collapse when it comes. And it is coming, Mrs. Seo. Your husband's empire is built on sand. Seraphina's mind raced. This was a trap. Had to be. Federal investigators didn't call wives of crime bosses and offer friendly meetings. I need to speak with my lawyer. Of course. But Mrs. Seo? The clock is ticking. We'll be executing search warrants within the week. When that happens, everyone connected to Lucien Seo becomes a person of interest, including you. Think carefully about which side of this investigation you want to be on. The line went dead. Seraphina sat frozen, coffee growing cold in her hands, watching Seoul sprawl below like a beautiful trap. She should tell Lucien, immediately. This was exactly the kind of threat he needed to know about. But something stopped her. Some instinct that whispered this was bigger than a simple federal investigation. Her phone buzzed. A text from the same unknown number. Check your email. See what your husband has been hiding. Then decide who you trust. Director Han. Against every survival instinct, Seraphina opened her email. A message from an anonymous sender, no text, just attachments, dozens of them. Financial records, bank transfers, shell company registrations, and photographs. Lucien meeting with Jae-hyun's father. Not 3 years ago. 3 weeks ago, right after the wedding. Both men shaking hands outside a building Seraphina recognized, one of the Kwon family's corporate offices. Another photo, Lucien handing over documents, Jae-hyun's father reviewing them with a smile. Another, both men at what looked like a private club, drinking expensive liquor, clearly comfortable with each other. The timestamps were all recent, all after Lucien had filed the lawsuit, all after he'd supposedly declared war on the Kwon family. Seraphina's hand shook so badly, she almost dropped the phone. The final email attachment was a recorded phone conversation. She hit play with numb fingers. Lucien's voice came through clearly. The wife is handling it exactly as predicted. She believes the revenge narrative completely. Jae-hyun's father. And when the federal investigation closes in, Lucien. She'll take the fall. Foreign national, recently married into money. Perfect scapegoat for international money laundering. The investigators will focus on her while we move assets offshore. You're certain she won't suspect? She's too emotional, too damaged from your son's treatment. She sees me as her savior. Classic psychological manipulation. Give the victim what they desperately need and they'll believe anything. Laughter. Both men laughing. Your mother always said you were the smartest of my associates' children. I learned from the best. The recording ended. Seraphina sat paralyzed, coffee cup falling from her hands and shattering on marble. The sound echoed like gunshots. It couldn't be real, had to be doctored, had to be some elaborate setup by the Chongpa syndicate or federal investigators, or someone trying to destroy Lucy Ann. But the voice was his. The cadence, the tone, the particular way he said psychological manipulation with clinical precision. Her phone rang again. Director Han. This time, Seraphina answered immediately. I'm listening. The meeting happened in a quiet cafe in Gangnam, public enough to be safe, private enough to avoid cameras. Director Han was a woman in her late 40s, sharply dressed, with the kind of eyes that had seen every lie humans were capable of telling. She sat across from Seraphina with a coffee she didn't drink and a folder she didn't open. Thank you for meeting me, Han said.
Tell me that recording was fake.
I wish I could. Han's expression held something like sympathy. We've been investigating Lucien Seoul for 18 months. He's been working with the Kwon family's money laundering operation for years. The lawsuit he filed? Theater. They're moving assets out of Korea before we can freeze them, and you, Mrs. Seo, are the distraction. That's not possible. He showed me evidence. He filed public documents. Public documents that made excellent headlines while accomplishing nothing substantial. The Kwon family hasn't actually paid any of the lawsuit settlement. They've just moved money between accounts while making it look like financial distress. Meanwhile, approximately 40 billion won has disappeared into offshore accounts. Han finally opened the folder. Accounts that your name is attached to. Seraphina's vision blurred. What? Shell companies registered in your name. Bank accounts opened using your identification. Investment portfolios that list you as the primary holder. Han slid documents across the table. You're not his wife, Mrs. Seo. You're his fall guy. When federal prosecutors move in, all of this traces back to you. Foreign national with connections to both Korean elite families and international banking. Perfect suspect. The document swam before Seraphina's eyes. Her name, Seraphina Vale Seo, appearing on page after page of financial crimes she knew nothing about. I didn't open these accounts. I never signed anything. Your signature is on every document. Then it's forged. Probably. But proving that in court takes years. Meanwhile, you'll be arrested, charged with international money laundering, and likely convicted before your legal team can untangle the fraud. Han leaned forward. Unless you cooperate with us now, help us understand Lucien Seo's operation. Testify about what you know. In exchange, we'll grant immunity and protection. Seraphina's hands were numb. Her entire body felt like it belonged to someone else. He said he loved me. I'm sure he did, in his way. Sociopaths often believe their own lies. Han's voice gentled slightly. You're not the first intelligent woman to be manipulated by a dangerous man, and you won't be the last. But you can still save yourself. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know this isn't another manipulation? Han pulled out her identification. Federal credentials, Director of Financial Crimes Investigation. Real, official. Because unlike your husband, I have nothing to gain by lying to you. My job is to stop criminals from destroying Korea's financial systems. You're not a criminal, Mrs. Seo. You're a victim. But if you don't help us, you'll become a criminal in the eyes of the law. And that distinction matters in prison. Prison. The word hit like a physical blow. Seraphina had married Lucien to escape humiliation, to gain power, to get revenge on people who destroyed her. Instead, she'd walked directly into a trap that would end with her rotting in a Korean prison while the men who'd used her walked free. What do you need? Seraphina heard herself ask. Access to his penthouse, his computers, his files, anything that shows the full scope of his money laundering operation. Han's eyes were sharp. And testimony. In court. About everything he told you, everything he planned, everything you witnessed. He'll kill me. We'll protect you. You can't. You don't know what he's capable of. I know exactly what he's capable of. That's why we need to stop him. Han pulled out a business card. Think about it. You have maybe 48 hours before we execute search warrants. After that, the decision is made for you. Either you're a cooperating witness or you're a co-conspirator. Choose carefully. She left. Seraphina sat alone in the cafe, staring at documents bearing her forged signature, listening to the recording play again in her memory. She's too emotional, too damaged, classic psychological manipulation. Every kiss had been a lie. Every gentle touch had been strategy. Every moment she'd thought they were building something real had been him performing a role to keep her compliant. She'd been so desperate for someone to value her that she'd believed the first man who offered protection. Believed him when he showed her scars. Believed him when he said he was afraid of losing her. All lies. All manipulation. All designed to turn her into the perfect scapegoat. Seraphina's phone buzzed. A text from Lucien. Dinner at 8. I have something important to tell you. She stared at the message. Important? Like confessing he'd been using her from the beginning? Like admitting she was about to be arrested for his crimes? Or more lies? More manipulation? More careful performance to keep her exactly where he needed her? Rage started building in Seraphina's chest.
Not the cold rage from being discarded by the Kwan family. Hot rage. The kind that made hands shake and vision narrow. She'd trusted him. Against every warning, every red flag, every logical reason to walk away, she'd trusted him. And he'd repaid that trust by framing her for international crime. Seraphina stood slowly, left cash on the table, walked out of the cafe into Seoul's afternoon chaos. She had a choice to make, and this time, she was choosing survival. The penthouse felt different when Seraphina returned, like walking into a crime scene before the bodies were discovered. Mrs. Kang was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The housekeeper looked up when Seraphina entered. Mr. Seo called. He'll be home soon. Good. Something in Seraphina's voice made Mrs. Kang pause. Are you well, Mrs. Seo? I'm perfect. Thank you. She went upstairs to Lucian's third-floor office. The door was locked, but she knew where he kept the spare key. Behind a particular book in the hallway bookshelf, one of dozens of leather-bound volumes chosen for appearance rather than content. The office was exactly as she'd imagined. Sleek desk, multiple monitors, filing cabinets that probably contained enough evidence to imprison half of Seoul's criminal underground. Seraphina sat at his computer. The login screen required a password. She tried the obvious ones: his birthday, their wedding date, variations of his name. Nothing. Then, on impulse, she tried Seraphina. The computer unlocked. For a second, she just stared at the screen, something twisting in her chest. He'd made her name his password. Was that more manipulation? Or had some part of him actually... No. She couldn't afford sentiment. Not now. Seraphina opened his email. Scanned through business correspondence, meeting notes, conversations in Korean she barely understood. Then she found a folder labeled simply Project S. She clicked it. Inside were files documenting everything: the plan to marry her, the psychological profile someone had created analyzing her vulnerabilities, notes on how to manipulate her effectively, recordings of conversations with Jae-hyun's father about using her as a scapegoat, and bank accounts. Dozens of shell companies registered in her name without her knowledge. It was all real. Every suspicion Director Han had planted was confirmed in Lucian's own files. Seraphina's hands moved on autopilot. She inserted a USB drive, she'd bought it on the way home, and started copying everything, every file, every email, every piece of evidence that would destroy the man she'd stupidly fallen in love with. The computer showed 15 minutes remaining. Downstairs, she heard the elevator open, Lucian's voice greeting Mrs. Kang. 10 minutes. Footsteps on the stairs. 5 minutes. Seraphina? Lucian called from the second floor. Where are you? Her heart hammered. The download progress bar moved with agonizing slowness. 3 minutes. Seraphina? Footsteps climbing to the third floor. 2 minutes. The office door opened. Lucian stood in the doorway, still wearing his suit, looking exhausted from whatever meeting had consumed his day. His eyes went to her sitting at his desk, to the computer screen, to the USB drive. His expression didn't change. Didn't show surprise or anger or fear, just resignation. So you know, he said quietly, 1 minute remaining. I know you've been using me, that everything, the marriage, the revenge story, the protection, was all manipulation to frame me for your crimes. Seraphina's voice shook with rage. I know I'm going to be arrested for money laundering I knew nothing about. I know my name is on accounts I never opened. I know you've been working with the Kwan family all along. It's more complicated than that. Is it? Explain the recording then. Explain telling Jae-hyun's father I was too emotional to suspect anything. Explain calling me your fall guy. 30 seconds. Lucian stepped into the office. That recording was from 4 months ago, before I actually knew you. Before you decided to keep manipulating me. Before you realized I'd be easier to control if you added fake emotions to the performance? They weren't fake. His voice cracked slightly. Seraphina, listen to me. The download completed. She pulled the USB drive, stuffed it in her pocket, and stood. I'm done listening. I'm done being your victim. I'm done letting powerful men use me and throw me away. I never planned to throw you away. Just send me to prison instead. So much better. Seraphina moved toward the door, but Lucian blocked her path. Not threatening, just present, a wall of muscle and desperation. Move, she said. Not until you listen. Yes, the original plan was to use you. Yes, I opened accounts in your name as insurance if the investigation got too close. But that was before. He reached for her and she flinched back. His hand dropped. Everything changed when I actually started knowing you. The woman who survived 7 years in a family that wanted her broken. The woman who fought back instead of disappearing. You weren't supposed to be real, Seraphina. You were supposed to be a convenient pawn. But you became, what? Your victim? Your wife? Your redemption project? She laughed bitterly. I don't care what story you're telling yourself, Lucienne. I care about the federal investigators who are executing search warrants in 48 hours. I care about the prison sentence I'm facing because you decided to frame me. Everything else is just noise. I can fix this. I can transfer the accounts back. You can't fix being fundamentally broken. You can't fix thinking manipulation equals love. You can't fix the fact that I was stupid enough to believe you actually cared about me. I do care about you. You care about controlling me. There's a difference. Seraphina pushed past him. This time he let her go. She was halfway down the stairs when his voice stopped her. Where are you going? She turned back. He stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against his office lights, looking more lost than she'd ever seen him. Somewhere you can't find me. Somewhere I can figure out how to survive the trap you built around me. She pulled out her phone. And I'm calling Director Hahn. I'm cooperating with the federal investigation. I'm testifying against you. I'm doing whatever it takes to make sure I don't go to prison for your crimes. Seraphina, if you testify against me, you'll be signing your own death warrant. My enemies will... Your enemies are already trying to kill me. I was your target from the beginning, Lucien. At least this way I control how I go down. She walked away before he could respond, before the tears threatening to break free could actually fall, before she could make the mistake of believing him one more time. In her bedroom, not their bedroom, never their bedroom, Seraphina grabbed the emergency bag she'd packed weeks ago. Just clothes and documents and enough cash to disappear for a few days. Her hands shook as she zipped it closed. A knock on the door. Go away, she said. Mrs. Seo, Mrs. Kang's voice. Please, you need to hear this. Despite everything, Seraphina opened the door. The housekeeper stood there holding a tablet. Before you leave, before you testify, you need to see this. I've seen enough. No, you've seen what they wanted you to see. Look. Mrs. Kang pulled up a video file, security footage from the penthouse, dated 3 weeks ago. Lucien in his office. Jae-hyun's father entering without knocking. Their conversation in Korean that Mrs. Kang translated quietly. You think I'm stupid enough to actually work with you? Lucien's voice was ice. After what your family did to Seraphina? Then why the meetings? Why the photographs? Because I needed you to think we were allies. Needed you comfortable, stupid, while I documented every crime you've ever committed. Lucien pulled out a folder. This is your entire operation. Every shell company. Every bribe. Every piece of evidence that proves you've been embezzling from your own corporation for 15 years. Jae-hyun's father went pale. You're bluffing. I'm delivering this to federal investigators tomorrow, along with testimony from 3 of your associates who I've been paying to record your conversations for 6 months. Lucien leaned forward. You destroyed a woman who did nothing except fail to give you what you wanted. You broke her systematically. You threw her away like garbage. So I'm returning the favor. By the time I'm done, your family will lose everything. Your son will understand what it's like to watch his life collapse. And you'll rot in prison knowing the foreign daughter-in-law you dismissed destroyed your entire legacy. This is about her? Everything is about her. The video ended. Seraphina stood frozen. When was this recorded? 3 weeks ago. Right after your wedding. Mr. Seo has been playing both sides, letting the Kwan family think he was helping them hide money, letting federal investigators think he was cooperating, all while actually building the case that destroys them completely. But the accounts in my name, the shell companies, fake, or rather set up by the Kwan family without your knowledge. Mr. Seo discovered them 2 weeks ago. He's been trying to trace them back and shut them down before investigators found them. Mrs. Kang's expression softened. The recording you heard
where he called you emotional and damaged. That was him playing a role, convincing Jae-hyun's father he was still on their side. Every meeting, every photograph, every piece of evidence that looked like betrayal was actually Mr.
Seo laying a trap. Seraphina's legs gave out. She sat on the edge of the bed, mind spinning. Why didn't he tell me? Because the Kwan family has been monitoring you. They tapped your phone 4 weeks ago. They read your emails. They track your location. If you'd known the plan, you might have acted differently, tipped them off. Mr. Seo kept you in the dark to keep you safe. Safe by making me think he betrayed me. Safe by making his enemies think you were expendable. If they believed he didn't actually care about you, they wouldn't bother using you against him. Mrs. Kong pulled up another file. Director Han? She's not federal investigation. She's corporate espionage hired by the Kwan family. Everything she told you was designed to turn you against Mr. Seo, to make you steal his files and deliver them to his enemies. The USB drive in Seraphina's pocket suddenly felt like a loaded weapon.
I copied everything, all his files. I know. He has alerts on his computer. He knew the moment you started downloading. Then why didn't he stop me?
But because he was hoping you'd trust him enough to ask questions before running. Because he was hoping the woman he fell in love with would choose to believe in him. Mrs. Kang's eyes were sad. He's upstairs right now destroying years of careful planning because he thinks you're about to hand everything to his enemies, not to save himself, to save you from the consequences of that choice. Seraphina couldn't breathe. I need to see him. He's in his office, but Mrs. Seo, he's not the same man you married. What you're about to see, he's had to become something else to protect you, something darker. Don't judge him too harshly for what survival required. Seraphina ran upstairs. The office door was open. Inside, Lucian sat at his desk surrounded by computer screens showing financial data, conversation logs, enough evidence to bury him forever. He was methodically deleting everything. Lucian, stop! He didn't look up, just kept clicking, destroying files, erasing evidence, dismantling his own carefully built operation. It's fine, he said flatly. I should have been more careful. Should have protected this better. Should have... Mrs. Kang showed me the real video, the conversation with Jae-hyun's father, his hands stilled on the keyboard. She showed me everything, Seraphina continued. The fake director Han, the phone monitoring, the setup, all of it. Silence. Finally, Lucien turns to face her. He looked destroyed, not angry, not calculating, just hollowed out. I should have told you, he said. I know, but they were watching so closely, and I thought if you didn't know the truth, you'd be safer. I thought I could protect you from all of it. The investigation, my enemies, your ex-husband's family. I thought... His voice cracked. I thought I could keep you safe while destroying everyone who hurt you, but I just made everything worse. Seraphina crossed the office slowly. Show me. Show you what? Everything. The real plan. Not the version you wanted me to see, not the version you showed enemies. The actual truth. Lucian studied her carefully, looking for residual anger maybe, or judgment, or the trust he'd accidentally destroyed by trying to protect her. Then he pulled up files she hadn't seen before. This is the Kwan family's complete financial network. Every crime, every hidden account, every piece of corruption I've been documenting for 4 years. He clicked through screens. This is testimony from their associates, people I've been paying or threatening or manipulating into talking. This is physical evidence, documents, recordings, photographs that prove systematic fraud. And the federal investigation? Real. But I've been feeding them information carefully, leading them toward the Kwan family while keeping my own operations clean. He pulled up another file. These are the shell companies in your name, created by Jae-hyun's father 2 months after your divorce. He was planning to frame you even before I entered the picture. I've been trying to untangle them legally without alerting him that I knew. Seraphina's hands clenched. They were always planning to destroy me. Yes, you embarrassed them, made them look weak. Families like that don't forgive public humiliation. Lucien's expression went dark. That's why I married you. Not to frame you, to protect you. As my wife, you have legal protections, resources. My network watching your back. If I'd just left you alone after the divorce, they would have destroyed you quietly and no one would have cared. So this whole time I've been at war on three fronts: against the Kwan family who wants you dead, against federal investigators who want me in prison, against my own syndicate rivals who see you as weakness. His eyes met hers. I've been lying to everyone, playing every side against the middle, becoming exactly the kind of monster I swore I'd never become. All to keep you alive and free while destroying the people who hurt you. Why didn't you just tell me? Because I fell in love with you. The confession came out raw. Somewhere between fake marriage and real war, I actually fell in love with my own wife. And loving you meant I couldn't risk you getting caught in the crossfire, couldn't risk you knowing things that might get you killed if enemies captured you, couldn't risk anything except making sure you survived, even if that meant you hated me. Seraphina pulled the USB drive from her pocket. I downloaded everything. I was going to give it to them. I know. You could have stopped me. I should have. But part of me thought maybe you deserved the choice. Maybe I'd manipulated you enough already. Maybe you earned the right to betray me if that's what survival required. She looked at the USB drive in her palm. Everything that would destroy him, send him to prison forever, free her from the dangerous orbit of loving a criminal. Then she walked to his desk and plugged it back into the computer. Upload it back. Every file, every piece of evidence, every weapon you need to finish this war. Her voice was steady. And then we finish it together. Not you protecting me, not you lying to me. Together. As actual partners. Seraphina, I'm done being the victim everyone fights over. I'm done being too damaged or too emotional or too foreign to understand what's actually happening. You want to destroy the Kwan family? Fine. I'll help you. You want to survive federal investigation? Fine. I'll be your partner instead of your liability. You want to fight your way free of this nightmare? She met his eyes. Then stop treating me like I need protection and start treating me like a weapon. Lucian stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, he smiled. Not the cold businessman smile. Not the calculated criminal smile. Something real. Something that looked like relief. You're terrifying, he said. I learned from the best. He stood, crossed the office, and kissed her like he'd thought he'd never get the chance again. Desperate. Consuming. Tasting like truth and violence and the kind of love that survived betrayal. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucien's hands framed her face. If we do this together, there's no going back. You'll become complicit in everything. Not legally. I'll still protect you from that. But morally, emotionally. You'll know exactly what I am and what I do. You'll watch me destroy people. You'll help me plan violence. You'll become someone your old self wouldn't recognize. My old self was weak. Let her die. Seraphina, I'm not asking permission, Lucian. I'm telling you how this works now. We're partners, equals. You don't get to protect me from truth anymore. You show me everything. You tell me everything. And I help you burn down the world that tried to break us both. He searched her face, looking for hesitation maybe, for the innocent woman he'd married. She was gone. In her place stood someone harder, sharper, someone who'd been betrayed by two families and learned that survival meant becoming more dangerous than your enemies. Okay, Lucian said finally. Partners, equals. No more lies between us. No more lies. He pulled her back to the computer, started showing her everything, the real plan, the actual evidence, the timeline for destroying the Kwan family completely. And Seraphina listened, learned, started understanding the chess game she'd been a piece in. But now she was becoming a player, and players didn't get sacrificed. They won. The war was about to enter its final phase. In 72 hours, federal investigators would execute search warrants across Seoul's criminal underground. The Kwan family would fall. Lucian's empire would either survive or collapse. And Seraphina would discover that becoming a queen meant getting blood on her hands. Not metaphorically, but literally. The woman who'd started this journey seeking revenge was about to learn that vengeance tasted exactly like power, and power was the most addictive drug ever created. 72 hours before the federal raids, Lucien spread blueprints across the dining table like battle plans. The Kwan family keeps their primary financial records here. His finger tapped a building in Gangnam. 15th floor, private server room. If we can access it before investigators do, we control the narrative of what gets found. Seraphina studied the blueprints, security cameras, keycard access, armed guards on every floor. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible, just expensive. Lucien pulled up another document on his tablet. I have someone inside, IT contractor who owes me for keeping his gambling debts quiet. He can disable cameras for exactly 7 minutes. After that, building security resets and we're exposed. 7 minutes to break into a secure server room and download years of financial records. 6 minutes, actually. 1 minute to get in and out of the building. He looked at her directly. This is what I meant about becoming complicit. You'd be breaking into a corporate headquarters, stealing evidence. If we're caught, you go to prison too. No prenup protects you from this. Seraphina's pulse hammered, but her hands were steady. When do we go? Tonight, before they realize we know about their monitoring, before they can move the servers somewhere we can't reach them. What about your associates? Your crew? Why isn't this a full operation? Lucian's expression went dark. Because I don't know who's loyal anymore. The Changpa has been paying people in my organization to leak information. Using you means I only have to trust one person, the person who has as much to lose as I do. The weight of that trust settled over Seraphina like armor, heavy, suffocating, necessary. What do I need to do? Og. At 11 o'clock that night, Seraphina wore black pants, a black jacket, and shoes designed for running instead of fashion. Her hair was pulled back tight, no jewelry, no perfume, nothing that could reflect light or leave scent memory. Lucien looked different too. Gone was the expensive suit. He wore tactical gear that made him look like what he actually was, someone who'd survived violence by becoming better at it than his enemies. Earpiece, he said, fitting a small device into her ear. Stay on comms at all times. If something goes wrong, you run. Don't wait for me. Don't try to help. Just run and get to the safe house address I gave you. I'm not leaving you. Seraphina, we're partners, equals, remember? That means we both come out or neither of us does. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Just handed her a key card and a small black device that looked like a phone. This accesses the server room. You'll have 4 minutes once you're inside. Plug this into their main terminal. It'll copy everything automatically. Don't touch anything else. Don't look at any files. Just plug it in and wait for the light to turn green. And if someone comes... He pulled a gun from somewhere and held it out. Seraphina stared at the weapon. Small, dark, utterly lethal. I don't know how to shoot. Point at center mass. Pull the trigger. Keep pulling until the threat stops moving. His eyes held hers. But if it comes to that, we've already lost. The goal is to be invisible. She took the gun. It was heavier than she expected. Cold. The weight of it in her hand felt like crossing a line she could never uncross. They took a nondescript car, something stolen probably, or borrowed from an associate who asked no questions. Seoul's midnight streets were still alive with people, neon bleeding into darkness, the city refusing to sleep. The Kwon family's corporate building rose like a glass monument to their empire. 20 stories of steel and arrogance. Security was visible even from the street, guards at the entrance, cameras tracking every angle. Lucien parked 3 blocks away. The IT contractor disabled the cameras 8 minutes ago. We have exactly 5 minutes to get to the 15th floor, access the server room, and get out before security notices the system failure. What if they notice sooner? Then we improvise. Not reassuring, but nothing about this night was meant to be reassuring. They approached from the service entrance. Lucien's key card, stolen or forged or purchased, Seraphina didn't ask, opened the door with a soft beep. Inside, the building was dim, emergency lighting casting everything in sickly green. The elevator would be too visible. They took the stairs. By the 5th floor, Seraphina's legs were burning. By the 10th, her breath came in controlled gasps. Lucien moved like he did this every night, ascending with predator efficiency. 15th floor. The door was locked, but Lucien had another key card. He swiped it and something clicked. The hallway beyond was empty. Corporate art on walls, offices with dark windows. Everything silent except the hum of air conditioning. Server room is at the end, Lucien whispered into the comms. 30 seconds there. 4 minutes inside, 30 seconds back. Stay close. They moved down the hallway together. Seraphina's heart hammered so loudly she was certain it would give them away. The gun in her jacket pocket felt like it weighed 50 pounds. The server room door required another keycard and a numeric code. Lucien entered numbers with steady hands. The lock disengaged. Inside was a wall of servers humming with stored data. Years of financial crimes reduced to blinking lights and spinning drives. There, Lucien pointed to a terminal. Main access point. Plug in the device and don't touch anything else. Seraphina's hands shook as she connected the small black device. A progress bar appeared on its screen. 4 minutes estimated. They waited. 3 minutes, 50 seconds. Somewhere in the building, an alarm started blaring. Fuck, Lucien hissed. They noticed the camera failure. We have maybe 2 minutes before security reaches this floor. 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Footsteps in the hallway, multiple sets, running. Seraphina, we need to go. It's not done yet. We can't wait. We came here for this. We're not leaving without it. Lucien pulled his own gun, moved to the door. His body language shifted into something lethal and focused. 3 minutes. The footsteps stopped outside the door. This is building security. Open the door immediately or we're coming in. Lucien looked at Seraphina, a question in his eyes. We can still run, still escape, still survive. She shook her head. They were finishing this. 2 minutes, 45 seconds. The door exploded inward. 2 security guards rushed in, weapons drawn. They saw Lucien first, saw his gun, his tactical gear, the absolute lack of fear in his expression. Drop the weapon. Lucien didn't drop anything, just stood there like a wall between them and Seraphina. This is private property. You're trespassing and I'm Lucien Seoul. His voice was ice. You know that name. You know what it means. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk away. You're going to forget you saw us. And in return, I won't have my associates visit your families. One guard's face went pale. The other looked uncertain. 2 minutes. We can't just... Oh, yes, you can. You're making minimum wage to guard an empty building at midnight. I'm offering you survival. Choose quickly. The first guard lowered his weapon, looked at his partner. Some silent conversation happened in shared glances. We never saw you, the first guard said. They backed out, disappeared down the hallway. 1 minute, 30 seconds. More footsteps, heavier, professional. That was building security, Lucien said. Next wave will be private contractors, the kind who get paid to ask questions with weapons. 1 minute. The device beeped. Progress complete. Light turned green. Seraphina yanked it free, shoved it in her jacket. Got it. Let's go. They ran. Back through the hallway. More footsteps converging from multiple directions. Lucien pulled Seraphina into an office, pressed them both against the wall beside the door. 3 men passed. Military bearing, rifles instead of handguns. The kind of security that didn't negotiate. Service stairs, Lucien whispered. Different route down. Move fast. Stay quiet. They slipped out after the contractors passed. The service stairs were narrower, darker. Seraphina's legs screamed, but she kept moving, kept descending, kept focusing on the next step instead of the drop below. 10th floor. Voices echoing from above. Someone had found the server room. 5th floor. An alarm shrieked through the stairwell. Lockdown protocols activating. Ground floor. The exit was locked. Emergency seal. Fuck. Lucien examined the door. They've sealed the building. We're trapped. Seraphina's mind raced. Windows? 15-foot drop minimum. You'd break bones. Better than bullets. He looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Pride, maybe. A recognition that she'd truly become what this night required. Parking garage, he said suddenly. Loading dock. Service vehicles go in and out. If we can reach it before they lock that entrance. They ran again. Through corridors that felt like mazes. Past offices where lights were suddenly flickering on as security swept floors. The parking garage entrance appeared ahead. A concrete ramp descending into darkness. A guard stepped into their path. Older man. Tired eyes. Gun drawn but held low. I can't let you pass. You can, Lucien said. You will. There are protocols. If I let you go, I lose my job. If you don't let us go, you lose your life. The guard studied them both, Seraphina with her black clothes and desperate eyes, Lucien with his weapon in absolute certainty. "You're Seo's wife," the guard said to Seraphina. "I saw the wedding announcement. My daughter follows you on social media. She thinks you're brave for marrying him despite what everyone said." Seraphina's throat tightened. "I am brave. Let us prove it." The guard looked at Lucien. "The Kwan family destroyed my cousin's business 10 years ago, bankrupted him over a zoning dispute. He killed himself 6 months later." Silence. "We're destroying them tonight," Seraphina said. "Completely. Permanently. The information on this device ends their empire forever. Let us finish it." The guard stepped aside. They ran down the ramp into the parking garage. Alarms shrieked, lights flashed. Somewhere above them, the building was locking down completely. Their stolen car sat where they'd left it. Lucien yanked open the door, shoved Seraphina inside, started the engine before his door was even closed. Tires screamed against concrete. They flew up the ramp toward the exit. The gate was closing. "Hold on," Lucien said. He floored the accelerator. They shot under the descending gate with maybe 6 inches of clearance. Metal scraped the roof of the car with a sound like the world ending. Then they were out, into Seoul's midnight streets, into traffic and chaos and relative safety. Seraphina couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel her heart trying to escape her chest. "We did it," she whispered. "We survived. That's not the same as winning. Not yet." Lucien's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "But yes, we did it." They drove for 20 minutes, taking random turns, ensuring no one followed. Finally, Lucien pulled into an underground parking garage in Itaewon. Different neighborhood, different security profile. He killed the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. "Let me see it," he said. Seraphina pulled out the device. The small screen still showed green. Success. Complete download. Lucien took it carefully, like handling explosives. "This is everything. Every crime the Kwan family has committed for 15 years, every hidden account, every bribe, every piece of corruption that kept them powerful while destroying anyone in their way. What do we do with it? We give it to actual federal investigators, not the fake ones, not corporate espionage. Real prosecutors who've been building cases against Seoul's elite families for years." He looked at her. "This device makes you complicit, Seraphina. You broke into a corporate building. You stole data. You fled from security. If this goes wrong, you're a criminal. If it goes right, I'm free. We're both free. And the family that destroyed me loses everything." She met his eyes. "I'm not backing down now." Lucien's hand cupped her face. "You're terrifying." "You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." He kissed her. Not gentle, not careful. Like she was the only real thing in a world built on lies. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Seraphina rested her forehead against his. "What happens now?" "Now we finish it. Tomorrow we meet with prosecutors. We hand over the evidence. We watch the Kwan family's empire collapse in real time." His voice dropped. "And then we deal with the fact that federal investigators will probably come for me next. This information proves their crimes, but it also proves I knew about their crimes. Knew and didn't report. That makes me complicit too. So we run or we fight. Depends on how much evidence they actually have versus how much they're bluffing." He pulled back slightly. "Either way, after tomorrow, nothing will be the same. We'll either be free or we'll be fugitives. There's no middle ground anymore." Seraphina looked at the device in his hands. Such a small thing. Such enormous consequences. "I'm not afraid," she said. "You should be." "I'm not. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for someone to save me. I'm saving myself. We're saving each other." She took his hand. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. That's what partners means." Lucien's eyes held something that looked like hope mixed with terror. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." They sat in the stolen car in an underground garage while Seoul pulsed with life above them, and for one fragile moment, everything felt like it might actually work out. Then Lucien's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. "Mr. Seo." A woman's voice. Cold, professional, utterly emotionless. "I believe you have something that belongs to the Kwan family. I strongly suggest you return it." "Who is this?" "Someone who knows your wife is sitting beside you in a car registered to one of your shell companies. Someone who knows you're in the Itaewon district. Someone who has a rifle scope pointed at your vehicle right now. Seraphina's blood went cold. If you harm her, Lucien started. I'm not going to harm anyone. Yet. But you're going to bring that device to the following address. Alone. Within the next hour. Or I start killing people you care about. Starting with the housekeeper who showed your wife security footage this afternoon. The line went dead. Lucien stared at the phone. They know everything, Seraphina whispered. They've been watching us the entire time. Not the entire time. They didn't know about tonight until we triggered building security. But they adapted fast. Faster than I expected. He looked at her. This is the choice. We can run. Leave Seoul tonight. Abandon the evidence and disappear. Or we can fight. Meet whoever that was. Try to finish this despite the trap. It's not a choice. If we run, they kill Mrs. Kang. Probably others, your associates, anyone connected to us. Seraphina's voice was steady despite the fear coursing through her. We fight. They'll kill us. Maybe. Or maybe we're smarter than they think. Maybe we've survived this long because we're willing to do what they are not. She pulled out the gun Lucien had given her, still heavy, still cold. What's the address? Lucien looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled up the text that had arrived with the phone call. An address in Gangbuk, Industrial District. The kind of place where screams wouldn't attract attention. This is a kill box, he said. They're not negotiating. They're eliminating threats. Then we eliminate them first. Seraphina, you told me I needed to become a weapon. Stop being surprised when I actually do it. She checked the gun like she'd seen in movies. Safety off. Chambered round. How many bullets? 15. But against professional killers, that might not be enough. So we be smarter than them. Faster. More vicious. She looked at him directly. You've survived in this world for 20 years. Teach me what survival actually means. Something shifted in Lucien's expression. The careful protector disappeared. The Shadow King emerged, cold, calculating, absolutely lethal. Survival means hitting first, hitting hard, no mercy, no hesitation. You see a threat. You eliminate it before it eliminates you. Okay. You might have to kill someone tonight. Not security guards who walk away. Not contractors who negotiate. Actual enemies who want you dead. Can you do that? Seraphina thought about Jae-hyun's mother calling her worthless. Thought about 7 years of humiliation. Thought about the Kwon family trying to frame her for their crimes. Thought about Mrs. Kang being threatened because she'd helped Seraphina see truth. Yes, she said. I can do that. Lucien studied her face, looking for doubt, maybe. For the innocent woman he'd married, she was gone. Burned away by betrayal and violence and the education that survival required becoming something harder than your enemies. Then we go to war, he said. They drove toward Gangbuk through Seoul's midnight arteries. The city lights blurred past like tracers. Seraphina's hands were steady on the gun. Her heartbeat was elevated but controlled. Fear had transformed into something sharper, something focused. When we arrive, Lucien said, let me enter first, draw their attention. If you see an opening, take it. Don't announce yourself. Don't wait for permission. Just act. And if they have hostages, if they have Mrs. Kang, then we adapt. But Seraphina, if it comes down to choosing between saving her or surviving ourselves, we survive. She'd want that. She's been in this world long enough to understand the mathematics of violence. The industrial district rose around them. Abandoned warehouses, dark streets, places where Seoul's shine couldn't reach. The address was a warehouse that looked condemned. No lights, no visible security, which meant security was everywhere, just hidden. Lucien parked 2 blocks away, killed the engine. Last chance to run. Stop asking me that. I need to know you're certain. Because after we walk into that building, there's no going back. We win or we die. There's no middle option. Seraphina looked at him, at the man who'd pulled her from the rain and offered her revenge, at the criminal who'd become her husband and somehow her salvation, at the violence wrapped in expensive suits who'd taught her that power wasn't given, it was taken. I'm certain, she said. Let's finish this. They got out of the car. Seoul's midnight air was cold against Seraphina's skin. The warehouse loomed ahead like a monument to everything that could go wrong. Lucian's hand found hers, squeezed once, then let go. They walked toward the warehouse together. Partners. Equals. Two people who'd crossed every line that mattered and found themselves on the other side, transformed into something the world should fear. The warehouse door was unlocked. Inside was darkness and the smell of oil and rust. "Mr. Seoul," the woman's voice echoed from somewhere in the shadows. "How punctual. And you brought your wife. How sentimental." Lights flickered on. Harsh. Blinding. When Seraphina's eyes adjusted, she saw them. 5 people. 4 with weapons. One standing in the center, a woman in her 50s, expensive clothes that looked wrong in this industrial setting, holding a tablet like it was a weapon, and behind them, tied to a chair with duct tape over her mouth, Mrs. Kang. The housekeeper's eyes went wide when she saw them. She shook her head desperately, warning them, telling them to run. "The device," the woman said. "Give it to me, now." Lucian pulled it from his pocket, held it up. "Let her go first." "I don't negotiate with criminals." "That's ironic, coming from someone hired by the Kwan family to commit murder." The woman smiled, cold, empty. "I'm just a corporate consultant, cleaning up loose ends." "By kidnapping and threatening to kill an innocent housekeeper?" "By protecting my client's interests." "The device?" Last warning. Lucien looked at Seraphina. Some silent conversation happened in shared glances. Trust. Partnership. The understanding that they were about to do something absolutely insane. He threw the device. Not to the woman, to the side. Into darkness. Everything happened at once. The woman screamed, "Get it!" 2 guards rushed toward where the device had landed. The remaining 2 kept weapons trained on Lucien and Seraphina. Lucien moved first, drew his weapon and fired twice. Both guards with rifles dropped. Seraphina didn't think, just acted, pulled her gun and aimed at the woman who'd orchestrated this nightmare. The woman who'd threatened Mrs. Kang. The woman who represented everything Seraphina had learned to hate about people who used violence as business. She pulled the trigger. The recoil shocked her. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The woman fell, not dead. Seraphina's aim had been off, shoulder wound, but down, bleeding. The other 2 guards spun around. Lucien fired again. One dropped. The other dove behind crates. "Get Mrs. Kang!" Lucien shouted. Seraphina ran. Her legs moved on instinct while her mind screamed about what she'd just done. She'd shot someone. Actually pulled the trigger. Watched them fall. No time to process. Mrs. Kang's chair was near the back wall. Seraphina yanked off the duct tape, started working on the ropes binding the housekeeper's wrists. Gunfire erupted behind them, Lucien and the remaining guard exchanging shots. Mrs. Kang's hands came free. "Run," she gasped. "Both of you, they have backup coming." "Not without you." More gunfire, the sound of someone falling. Seraphina looked back. The last guard was down. Lucien stood in the center of the warehouse, weapons still raised, searching for more threats. The woman Seraphina had shot was crawling toward where the device had landed, leaving a blood trail on concrete. "The device," Seraphina said. She ran toward it. The woman saw her coming and lunged. They collided. Fell. The woman's hands went for Seraphina's throat despite the shoulder wound. "You stupid bitch," the woman hissed. "You've ruined everything." Seraphina's training was non-existent. Her technique was desperation, but rage made up for lack of skill. She drove her elbow into the woman's wounded shoulder. The woman screamed and loosened her grip. Seraphina rolled free, grabbed the device, scrambled backward. Lucien appeared, pulled the woman off Seraphina completely, pressed his gun to her forehead. "Who hired you? Give me names." The woman laughed, blood on her teeth. "You think I'm telling you anything? I'm dead either way. At least this way, I die with dignity instead of letting you die either way," Lucien interrupted. "But you can die fast or you can die over the course of several hours while I ask questions with tools. Choose quickly." Something in his voice made even Seraphina's blood run cold. The woman's eyes widened. "Kwan, Jae-hyun's mother directly. She's been running damage control since the lawsuit hit. Hired me to eliminate anyone who knew too much. Your wife, your housekeeper. Eventually, you. Where is she now? Safe house in Pyeongchang-dong. But you'll never reach her. She has private security, military contractors. You'd need an army. Lucien looked at Seraphina. Or we just need the right leverage. He pulled out his phone. Made a call. Spoke in rapid Korean that Seraphina only partially understood. When he hung up, sirens were already audible in the distance. We have maybe 3 minutes before police arrive. Real police this time, not ones I've paid off. He helped Seraphina up. Can you walk? Yes. Mrs. Kang? The housekeeper nodded, still shaking but functional. They ran for the exit. Behind them, the warehouse was a crime scene of bodies and blood and evidence of violence that couldn't be explained away. Into the car. Engine roaring, tires screaming. They were 6 blocks away when the police cars converged on the warehouse. Seraphina sat in the back seat next to Mrs. Kang, trying to process what had just happened. She'd shot someone, had fought hand-to-hand with a professional killer, had emerged alive. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed reaction. The gun felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. You did well, Mrs. Kang said quietly. You saved my life. I shot someone. You protected someone you cared about. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Violence for cruelty is evil. Violence for protection is survival. Tonight was survival. Lucien's eyes met Seraphina's in the rearview mirror. We have maybe 6 hours before the Kwan family realizes their cleaning crew failed. 6 hours to finish this completely. Are you ready for the endgame? Seraphina looked at the device still clutched in her hand. At the blood on her clothes, some hers, most someone else's. At the woman she'd become in the space of one night. What's the endgame? Lucien smiled. Predator smile. The Shadow King at his most dangerous. We don't wait for them to come after us again. We go to them. Tonight, we end this war by taking the fight directly to the woman who started it. His eyes were black ice. Jaehyun's mother wanted you destroyed, so we destroy her first, completely, permanently. No mercy, no negotiation, just absolute annihilation of everything she values. She has military security. She has people who work for money. I have people who work for loyalty, and I have something she wants desperately. He held up his own phone. While you were fighting, I called her, told her I have her son, told her if she wants him back alive, she meets me, alone, in 2 hours. You don't have her son. She doesn't know that. By the time she realizes I'm lying, we'll be inside her safe house with all the evidence we need to bury her entire family forever. Seraphina's heart hammered. That's insane. That's war. And we're winning. He looked at her directly. But this is the point where it gets truly dangerous, where we stop being victims fighting back and become aggressors hunting prey. If you want to walk away, do it now. I'll finish this alone. Seraphina thought about 7 years of humiliation, about being called worthless, about watching her marriage collapse while Jaehyun stayed silent, about the woman who'd orchestrated her destruction and felt entitled to do it, about Mrs. Kang tied to a chair because she'd helped Seraphina see truth, about becoming exactly what survival required. I'm not walking away, she said. Take me to her. Let's finish this. Lucien's smile widened. Seoul's midnight streets blurred past the windows as they drove toward Pyeongchang-dong, toward the safe house where Jaehyun's mother thought she was untouchable, toward the final confrontation that would either free them completely or destroy them both. In the back seat, Seraphina reloaded her gun with hands that had stopped shaking. She was done being afraid, done being the victim, done letting powerful people treat her like she was disposable. Tonight, the queen became the hunter. And Seoul's elite was about to learn that the foreign woman they'd dismissed was more dangerous than any of them had imagined. The final battle was about to begin. In the luxury safe house where Jae-hyun's mother hid behind private security and family money, Seraphina and Lucien would face their ultimate test, not just of survival, but of how far they were willing to go for freedom. The next hours would determine whether they emerged as victors or became another story of people who challenged Seoul's elite and lost everything. But win or lose, die or survive, they would face it together, 2 broken people who'd found each other in the storm and refused to be destroyed by anyone ever again. The safe house in Pyeongchang-dong sat behind walls that cost more than most people earned in lifetimes. Security cameras tracked every angle. Guards patrolled with military precision, the kind of fortress that announced its occupants believed they were untouchable. Lucien parked 3 blocks away in darkness so complete it felt tactical. "She'll have 8 guards minimum," he said, studying the house through binoculars. "Former military, well paid, loyal enough to die for her, which makes them dangerous." "How do we get past them?" Seraphina asked. "We don't. We go through the front door." He lowered the binoculars. "I told her I have Jae-hyun. She'll want proof. When she opens communication to verify, that's our window." "What if she doesn't believe you?" "She will. Because the alternative is living with uncertainty about whether her only son is in danger. Mothers are predictable that way, even terrible ones." Mrs. Kang had stayed behind at a different safe house, Lucian's insistence after she'd already been threatened once. Now it was just them. 2 people against a fortress. 2 weapons against 8 trained killers. 2 survivors against the woman who'd tried to destroy them both. Seraphina checked her gun for the 3rd time. 15 rounds. She'd already used 2 at the warehouse. 13 left. The mathematics of violence were brutally simple. "When we get inside," Lucian said, "she'll try to negotiate. Offer money. Threaten legal action. Promise to leave us alone. Don't believe any of it. Women like her don't surrender. They regroup." "So what's the plan?" "We get the confession, everything. Her ordering your harassment, her working with my organization to launder money, her hiring people to kill us. All of it recorded, documented, irrefutable." He pulled out his phone, opened a recording app. "This is our insurance. Legal protection. Proof that everything we did was self-defense against someone trying to murder us. And after we get the confession," Lucian's expression went cold. "After, we make sure she never threatens anyone again, permanently." Seraphina's stomach twisted. "You're going to kill her." "I'm going to give you the choice. She destroyed you for 7 years, made you feel worthless, threw you away like garbage. This is your chance to decide how her story ends." "I'm not a killer." "You shot someone 4 hours ago." "That was different. That was survival." "This is survival too, just delayed. If we let her live, she'll spend the rest of her existence trying to destroy us. She has money, connections, and the kind of vindictive cruelty that never forgets. We either end this completely, or we spend our lives looking over our shoulders." Seraphina's hands shook. Not from fear, from the weight of the decision being handed to her, the power to end a life, to become judge, jury, executioner. "I don't want to be that person," she whispered. "Then I'll be that person. You can walk away with clean hands." Lucian's eyes held hers. "But understand what you're choosing. Mercy for someone who showed you none. Compassion for someone who would celebrate your death. There has to be another way." "There isn't. Not in this world. Not with people like her. You either destroy your enemies completely, or they destroy you eventually. Those are the only options." The weight of truth settled over Seraphina like concrete. This was the final lesson. The last transformation required by survival. She could remain the woman who'd been victimized, holding on to morality and principles while her enemies circled. Or she could become something else, something harder. Something that understood mercy was a luxury only survivors could afford. "Let's get the confession first," she said. "Then I'll decide." Lucien studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. They approached the safe house together, 2 shadows moving through Seoul's wealthy darkness. When they reached the gate, Lucien pulled out his phone and called. It rang 4 times. Then a woman's voice answered, sharp, imperious, utterly certain of her power. "You're lying about having my son." "Am I? How certain are you? Certain enough to risk being wrong?" Lucian's voice was ice. "I'm outside your gate. You have 2 minutes to open it and talk. Or I make 1 phone call and Jae-hyun learns what it's like to be thrown away like garbage, just like you did to Seraphina." Silence. Calculation happening at light speed. "Come to the front door. Alone. If I see anyone else, my guards will shoot first and ask questions never." Agreed. The gate buzzed open. They walked up the driveway together despite her conditions. Security cameras tracked their movement. Somewhere in the house, guards were probably preparing for violence. The front door opened before they reached it. Jae-hyun's mother stood framed in expensive lighting, wearing silk pajamas that probably cost more than most people's cars. She looked older than Seraphina remembered. Thinner, the kind of weight loss that came from stress eating away at flesh. Her eyes went immediately to Seraphina. You. The word came out like poison. You've destroyed everything. My family's reputation, our business relationships, our standing in society, all because you couldn't accept being discarded gracefully. Gracefully? Seraphina's voice was steady despite rage threatening to crack it open. You called me worthless, barren, defective. You threw me out of your house in the rain like I was trash, and you expected me to accept that gracefully? You were a foreign woman who married above her station. You should have been grateful for the years we gave you. Instead, you've spent months destroying us out of petty revenge. It's not revenge. It's justice. The older woman laughed, bitter, hollow sound. Justice? You married a criminal, a mafia boss who's probably killed dozens of people. You broke into corporate buildings. You've been complicit in crimes that will send you to prison. And you call that justice? I call it survival. Something you would have denied me if you'd had your way. I should have had you deported the moment Jae-hyun wanted to divorce you. Should have made your life so unbearable you'd have left Korea entirely. My mistake was showing mercy. Your mistake, Lucien interrupted, was thinking she was weak enough to destroy quietly. Now let's discuss the real reason we're here. You've been laundering money through my organization for 3 years. You've hired people to kill us. You've committed enough crimes to spend the rest of your life in prison. We have evidence of everything. Jae-hyun's mother's expression didn't change. You have nothing that would hold up in court. We have financial records showing every transaction. We have recordings of you hiring corporate assassins. We have testimony from associates you betrayed. He pulled out the device they'd stolen. And we have your entire financial network documented in detail. Everything the federal investigators need to bury you permanently. For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Not fear. Something colder. Calculation. What do you want? A confession, on record, admitting everything you've done, to Seraphina, to your family's victims, to everyone whose lives you've destroyed while hiding behind respectability. And if I refuse, then we give everything to prosecutors tomorrow morning and you spend the rest of your life in prison. Your choice, quick destruction or slow legal annihilation. She studied them both. Seraphina in her blood-stained clothes, still holding a gun like she'd learned to use it. Lucien radiating the kind of danger that came from surviving violence for 20 years. You won't kill me, she said finally. You need me alive to testify, to validate your evidence. Killing me makes you murderers instead of victims. True, Lucien agreed. But there are many things worse than death. Poverty, for instance, public humiliation. Watching your son lose everything because of your choices. We can make your life a nightmare without ever touching you. My son is strong. He'll survive. Will he? Seraphina stepped forward. I was married to Jae-hyun for 7 years. I know exactly how weak he is, how he collapses under pressure, how he turns to alcohol when things get difficult. Without your money and connections, he'll destroy himself within a year, and you'll have to watch it happen knowing you caused it. The older woman's composure cracked slightly. You don't know anything about my son. I know he loved me, in his way, but he loved your approval more, and that weakness will eat him alive when everything collapses. Seraphina's voice went quiet. You destroyed my life because I couldn't give you an heir. Now I'm going to destroy his life because you couldn't give him a spine. That's justice. You can't. I already have. The lawsuit Lucien filed? It's airtight. The evidence we're providing to prosecutors? Irrefutable. By tomorrow morning, your family's empire will be in federal custody. Your accounts will be frozen. Your properties will be seized. And everyone in Seoul will know the truth about what you really are. Jae-hyun's mother's hands clenched into fists. I'll fight this. I have lawyers, connections, friends in government who will abandon you the moment the scandal breaks, Lucien finished. Powerful people don't stay friends with sinking ships. They'll distance themselves so fast you'll get whiplash. Within a week, you'll be radioactive. No one will take your calls. No one will defend you. You'll be completely alone. So this is your revenge? Destroying my family's legacy? No, Seraphina said. This is consequences. Something you've never had to face before.
You've spent your entire life hurting people without paying for it. That ends tonight." Silence stretched between them. Outside, security guards were probably listening to every word. Inside, the safe house that represented everything money could buy felt like a tomb. "What do you want me to say?" the older woman asked finally. Her voice had lost its imperious edge. Now she just sounded tired, defeated.
"The truth, all of it." Lucian held up his phone, recording app active. Jae-hyun's mother looked at the device, at the two people who'd survived everything she'd thrown at them and come back stronger, at the ruins of her carefully constructed life. "I ordered Seraphina's harassment after the divorce," she said quietly. "Paid people to spread rumors, made sure she couldn't find work, wanted her to leave Korea completely because she embarrassed us." "Keep going," Lucy Xian said. "I've been laundering money through various criminal organizations for 15 years, using shell companies to hide assets, bribing officials to look the other way, building an empire on corruption while pretending to be respectable. And I hired people to kill you both when the lawsuit threatened to expose everything. I paid corporate assassins. I ordered your housekeeper kidnapped. I did everything I could to eliminate threats to my family's power." Her eyes met Seraphina's. "I called you worthless because you couldn't give me what I wanted. I threw you away because you'd stopped being useful. And I tried to destroy you because you dared to fight back." "Why?" Seraphina asked. "Why couldn't you just let me go? I would have disappeared quietly. I just wanted to survive." "Because you made my son look weak. Because you made our family look foolish for choosing a foreign daughter-in-law. Because—" She trailed off. "Because I'm a cruel woman who spent her entire life controlling people. And you were the one person I couldn't control. That terrified me. So I tried to break you instead." The confession hung in the air like smoke. Lucian stopped recording. "That's everything we need." "Now what?" the older woman asked. "You kill me? Call the police? Destroy me publicly?" Seraphina looked at her. At the woman who'd made 7 years of her life a nightmare, who'd called her defective and worthless and broken, who'd tried to have her murdered rather than just leave her alone. And Seraphina realized something fundamental. This woman wasn't powerful, wasn't untouchable, wasn't even particularly intelligent. She was just scared. Scared of losing control. Scared of her family's empire collapsing. Scared of being revealed as exactly what she was, a cruel person who'd used money to hide from consequences her entire life. "We don't kill you," Seraphina said. "We let you live. Let you watch everything you built crumble. Let you sit in whatever prison cell they give you and think about all the people you destroyed for no reason except cruelty. Death would be mercy, and you don't deserve mercy. So you're just like me, using power to destroy people. No, I'm nothing like you, because I only destroy people who attack first. You destroyed people because you could. That's the difference." Seraphina turned to Lucian. "Let's go. We're done here." They walked toward the door. "Wait." Jae-hyun's mother's voice stopped them. "My son, is he really safe?" Seraphina looked back. "I never touched Jae-hyun. He was weak and he failed me. But I'm not cruel enough to hurt him just because I can. That's the difference between us." They left. Behind them, the safe house that represented everything money could buy felt like exactly what it was. A cage built by someone too afraid to live in the real world. In the car, Seraphina's hands finally started shaking. Delayed reaction. Everything that had happened in the last 6 hours crashing over her at once. "You did well," Lucian said quietly. "I let her live." "I know. That took more strength than killing her would have. You think I'm weak. I think you're stronger than I am. I would have put a bullet in her without hesitation. You chose mercy. That's not weakness. That's being better than the people who hurt you." Seraphina looked at the recording on Lucian's phone. The confession that would end the Kwan family's empire. The evidence that would free them both. "What happens now? Now we give this to federal prosecutors. We testify. We watch the Kwan family collapse under the weight of their own crimes." He glanced at her. "And then we figure out how to actually live instead of just survive." "Do you know how to do that?" "No, but I'm willing to learn with you." They drove back through Seoul's midnight streets, the city that had tried to break them both, the city where they'd found each other in the storm and refused to be destroyed. 3 months later, Seoul had moved on. The Kwon family's empire had collapsed exactly as Lucian predicted. Federal prosecutors had used their confession and the stolen financial records to build a case so airtight that even the most expensive lawyers couldn't penetrate it. Jae-hyun's father was sentenced to 12 years for embezzlement and money laundering. His mother got 8 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Jae-hyun himself had disappeared. Rumors said he'd moved to Singapore. Other rumors said he'd checked into rehabilitation for alcohol dependency. Seraphina didn't care enough to find out which was true. The media had devoured the scandal. Headlines screamed about elite family corruption for weeks. Then a different scandal captured attention, and the Kwons faded into history, a cautionary tale about what happened when power built on lies finally collapsed. Lucian's organization had survived the federal investigation. Barely. He'd provided enough information about his competitors to satisfy prosecutors while keeping his own hands relatively clean. Some of his associates had gone to prison. Some had disappeared. But the core of his empire remained intact, slowly being transformed into something more legitimate. Seraphina stood on the penthouse balcony overlooking Seoul's evening lights. The city looked different now, less hostile, less like a trap, just a city, beautiful and flawed and full of people living complicated lives. Coffee. Lucien appeared beside her, holding 2 cups. She took one. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Seoul breathe below them. "The lawyers finalized it today," he said. "The foundation is officially established. Valeseo Foundation for supporting foreign spouses in Korea. Initial funding of 10 billion won." Seraphina smiled slightly. "Using dirty money to help people like me. There's poetry in that. There's justice in that. You were destroyed for being foreign and failing to meet impossible expectations. Now you're making sure other women don't face the same thing. We're making sure. This is your money too. It's our money. I'm just the criminal who earned it. You're the person who'll make sure it actually helps people." She looked at him. 3 months of relative peace had changed him. He looked less like the Shadow King and more like just a man. Still dangerous, still capable of violence when required, but softer around the edges. Like he'd finally allowed himself to exist as something other than a weapon. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Marrying me? Everything that happened?" Lucien was quiet for a moment. "I regret that you had to experience violence, that you had to shoot someone, that you had to make choices no one should have to make. But do I regret marrying you? No. Never. You saved me from becoming completely hollow, gave me a reason to care about something beyond survival." Careful. That almost sounds like love. It is love. He said it simply, factually, like stating the weather. Messy, violent, built on lies that became truth, but love nonetheless. Seraphina's throat tightened. "I love you too, despite everything, despite the fact that this started as manipulation, despite the blood and the fear and the absolute insanity of our entire relationship. We're terrible for each other. We're perfect for each other. That's what makes us terrible." He laughed, real laugh, rough and genuine. Inside the penthouse, Mrs. Kang was preparing dinner. The housekeeper had refused to leave even after everything that happened. "I've worked for Mr. Seo for 12 years, she'd said. "I'm not abandoning him now just because things got dangerous. Besides, someone needs to make sure you both eat actual food instead of surviving on coffee and revenge." Seraphina's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She opened it cautiously. "After everything, paranoia was a permanent condition. I saw what you built. The foundation. Thank you. J.H.J. Hyun." Wherever he'd disappeared to, he was still watching Seoul news, still aware of what his ex-wife had become. She didn't respond, just deleted the message. That chapter of her life was closed. She'd gotten her justice. She'd survived. She'd won. Everything else was just noise. "What are you thinking about?" Lucien asked. "How different everything is. 6 months ago, I was standing in the rain with a suitcase, thinking my life was over. Now I'm here, with you, running a foundation, actually happy. Happiness looks good on you. Survival looks good on both of us." They stood together as Seoul's lights began to overwhelm the fading daylight. The city of 10 million people going about their lives, completely unaware that 2 of them had fought a war in the shadows and emerged victorious. Do you think it's really over? Seraphina asked. Or are we just in the calm before another storm? There's always another storm. That's life in this world. But we survived the worst one. Everything after this is just weather. Lucian's hand found hers. And we'll survive it together, however it comes. Together. Always. Inside, Mrs. Kang called that dinner was ready. They turned from the balcony, from the city that had tried to break them, and walked into warmth and light and the simple domestic ritual of sharing a meal. Later that night, after Mrs. Kang had gone to her own quarters, after dishes were cleaned and coffee was finished, Seraphina and Lucian lay together in the darkness of their bedroom. Not the separate rooms they'd maintained in the beginning, not the careful distance of a fake marriage, just two people who'd survived hell together and learned that trust was built in the spaces between violence. "Tell me something true," Seraphina said into the darkness. "Like what?" "Like something you've never told anyone else. Something real." Lucian was quiet for a long moment. "I was afraid of you. From the beginning. Afraid of what you made me feel. I'd spent 20 years becoming someone who couldn't be hurt because I couldn't care about anything. Then you walked into my life and I cared, and that terrified me more than any enemy ever has. And now I'm still terrified, but I've learned that fear means something matters, and I'd rather live terrified of losing you than live safely alone." Seraphina turned to face him in the darkness. "You're not going to lose me. We're stuck together. You're too dangerous for anyone else, and I'm too damaged. We're a perfect disaster. The best kind of disaster." He kissed her, gentle this time. Not the desperate kisses of war, but the slow kisses of peace. The kind that said we survived and we're still here, and tomorrow we'll wake up and do it all over again. When they broke apart, Seraphina settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady, alive, real. "Do you think we'll ever be normal?" she asked. "No." "Good. Normal is overrated," says the woman who married a criminal for revenge. Says the criminal who fell in love with his fake wife. Lucien's arms tightened around her. Not fake anymore. No, not fake anymore. Not. They lay together in the darkness while Seoul pulsed with life outside their windows. Two survivors who'd found each other in the storm. Two broken people who'd discovered that sometimes the pieces fit better after they've been shattered and rebuilt. In the morning, there would be meetings with lawyers about the foundation. Calls with prosecutors still building cases against various criminals. The ongoing work of transforming a violent empire into something legitimate. But tonight, there was just this. Peace. Safety. The person you loved breathing beside you in the dark. Seraphina had started this journey seeking revenge. She'd ended it finding redemption. Not the clean kind. Not the kind where everyone lived happily without scars. The messy kind. The kind where you carried trauma but refused to let it define you. Where you loved someone despite their darkness because you understood darkness yourself. Where happiness wasn't the absence of pain but the choice to keep living despite it. She'd been thrown away like garbage by people who thought she was worthless. She'd survived by becoming priceless. And standing beside the man who'd seen her worth before she'd seen it herself, Seraphina Seoul finally understood the truth. She'd never been broken. She'd been becoming unstoppable. 5 years later. The Foundation's new office building stood in Gangnam, modern glass and steel, right in the heart of Seoul's power district. A visible reminder that foreign spouses had value, had rights, had support. Seraphina stood in her office on the 20th floor, reviewing applications for emergency assistance grants. A woman from the Philippines whose visa was expiring, a man from France whose Korean wife had died and he was fighting for custody. A woman from Vietnam whose in-laws were trying to have her deported. Stories that echoed her own. People trapped between cultures, fighting for survival in a country that didn't always welcome them. She approved all 3 grants, assigned case managers, made sure they had legal support and financial assistance and someone who understood their struggle. This was what she'd built from the ruins of her old life. Real impact, actual change, hundreds of people helped, dozens of lives saved. "Mrs. Seo," her assistant appeared in the doorway. "Your 3 o'clock is here." Seraphina checked her calendar, meeting with a potential donor, someone wanting to contribute to the foundation's work. "Send them in." The door opened. A young woman entered,
Mid-20s, nervous energy, Korean, but with the kind of internationalized polish that came from overseas education. She bowed slightly. Mrs. Seo, thank you for meeting with me. My name is Elena Park. My mother was helped by your foundation 3 years ago. She was from Thailand, married to a Korean man who became abusive. Your foundation helped her get legal representation and escape safely. She's thriving now, owns a restaurant in Itaewon. Seraphina gestured to the chair across from her desk. I'm glad we could help. What brings you here today? I want to work for you. I just graduated with a degree in social work. I've been following your foundation's work since it started. You're changing lives, Mrs. Seo. Real lives. People like my mother who have nowhere else to turn. I want to be part of that. Something in the young woman's earnest expression reminded Seraphina of herself 5 years ago. Broken, but determined. Hurt, but refusing to stay down. Tell me about your mother's story, Seraphina said. Elena did. It was brutal, familiar. A woman who'd married for love and found abuse instead. Who'd been trapped by visa restrictions and language barriers and fear of losing her children. Your foundation gave her hope when she had none, Elena finished. She always says you saved her life, and now I want to help save others. Seraphina studied the application Elena had brought. Strong grades, volunteer experience, fluent in Korean, Thai, and English. Perfect qualifications. But more importantly, the fire in her eyes. The determination of someone who understood suffering and chose to fight against it. You're hired, Seraphina said. Start Monday. We'll put you on the crisis intervention team. It's intense work. You'll hear terrible stories every day. You'll feel helpless sometimes. But you'll also save lives. Real, tangible lives. Can you handle that? Elena's face lit up. Yes, absolutely yes. After she left, Seraphina sat alone in her office, looking at Seoul's skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. 5 years ago, she'd been the one needing help. The broken foreign wife with nowhere to turn. Now she was the one providing help, building something that mattered, creating the support system she desperately needed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucien. Dinner at home tonight? I'm cooking. She smiled. Lucien cooking was a recent development, part of his ongoing transformation from criminal king to something resembling a normal husband. He was terrible at it, but he tried, and the effort mattered more than the results. Perfect. See you at 7. Love you. S. She gathered her things. Work could wait until tomorrow. Tonight was for living, for being with the person she loved, for enjoying the peace they'd fought so hard to earn. In the elevator down, she caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. 35 years old, confident, powerful, successful. Nothing like the woman who'd stood in the rain 5 years ago with a suitcase and shattered dreams, but also exactly like that woman. Because all of this, the foundation, the marriage, the hard-won happiness, had been built on the foundation of her refusing to stay broken. The rain that had once marked her destruction had become the storm that rebuilt her. And beside the man who'd seen her worth before she'd seen it herself, she'd learned the most important truth. Survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about choosing to keep living even after everything tried to kill you. It was about building something beautiful from the ruins of what broke you. It was about becoming the person you needed when no one else would save you. Seraphina walked out of the building into Seoul's evening chaos. The city that had once felt like a trap now felt like home. Not because it had changed, because she had. She'd stopped waiting for permission to exist. She'd stopped apologizing for surviving. She'd stopped letting anyone else define her worth. And in doing so, she'd become exactly what she was always meant to be, unstoppable. This is the story of a woman who was discarded and decided to become priceless. Of a man who built an empire on violence and learned that love was stronger than fear. Of 2 broken people who found each other in the storm and refused to be destroyed by anyone ever again. They didn't get a perfect ending, but they got a real one. And sometimes that's the only kind of happy ending that actually matters.